Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Gray Area. My name is Mr. Bennett, or you can call me Paul. Like I said, I don't have an identity out here. And my sidekick and my partner tonight is Grooming in Reviews, aka Peter, aka Yotis. Posise, my brother. How are you?
What's going on, good brother? I am well. A long day of work is over. I'm ready to kick it and about to stir some shit up with you, like always.
Oh, okay. All right, bring it. Bring
Before
it.
we get
Ready?
into it, I wanted to address something we talked about last week. I got some information on. We talked about child support a little bit last week, if you remember.
Yeah.
Well, I actually made some phone calls to Greece. Long distance phone calls are very expensive, so thank me later.
Wait a minute. Calls with all the things that we have now, Skype and Snapchat, all these things, you still have to pay long distance to Greece?
Yeah, believe it or not, because it's more
Wow.
expensive. Because not everybody has Skype. Not everybody has what's called you all this stuff. What's
Yeah,
called
WhatsApp. They don't have WhatsApp in
not
Greece?
everybody has it, unfortunately. So it's
Mm,
more. Some people do have it. Like my best friend has Facebook. I talk to him on
right,
Facebook. I talk to him mostly on Facebook. To be honest, it's just convenient. You know what I'm saying?
right.
But the people I just spoke to are divorced. This is how it plays out, pretty much. So you have to go through the divorce process, obviously.
Mm,
If you guys don't have a pre-agreement how the child support will be split, that's fine. Now, let's say you miss a payment because you got fired, laid off. All right, as long as you
mhm,
prove you were laid off and not fired, you're not being a bum, you don't want to work or you don't want to
right,
pay.
right.
In other words, like one of my buddies said, I'm not paying the fucking bitch.
Oh man.
It's yeah, it's different. You're not going to be put in jail because your woman says, "Oh, he missed $1. Put his ass in jail." It does not work like that. It is
Mhm,
more fair. And this buddy of mine used to live in the States too. He being back and forth. He just likes the life
right,
better in Greece, and that's his prerogative, obviously.
right.
But in Greece, the court system is more reasonable. It's not like favor the mother mostly or the father or whatever the case is. It's down the middle because the
Gotcha.
judges in Greece is not one judge. There actually are three judges in a courtroom always.
Okay, so it's a panel, panel of judges.
Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, okay, all right. Well, save some of that because we can certainly come back and revisit that. But again, I want to welcome everyone again to the great area. Shout out to the chat. Thank you, Black Man Unfiltered, once again for giving us your platform so we can host this. And I know, Grooming, you're also streaming this on your platform as well as on
Yep.
Facebook. So again, you can certainly join us for the conversation there as well. And but just thank you for those in the chat who decided to hang out with us tonight. Thank you, Lou Medic. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Stacy B79. Always supporting certainly grooming and supporting this effort. So again, appreciate you as well. And certainly for those who will be coming in later, again, we appreciate you because again, this is still playoff weekend. I know the Bills are playing Kansas City tonight, so a lot of guys, are probably still watching the game. The earlier game with the Lions and the in Tampa Bay was a great game as well. So I know people are wrapping up. So again, for you to take some of your Sunday night. And again, I know people have to get up early on Mondays and go to work a lot of times too. So we appreciate you guys coming out. Also, if you consider us, if you see this bottom of the screen scrolling, Cash Apps. So again, if you want to support what we're doing here, we would appreciate your Cash Apps and anything that you have. Information, man, brother, it is so good to see you here. And it's to just appreciate you gracing us with your presence here. And this is a brother who puts in the work, he puts in the research and everything that he does. And so I really appreciate the work that he does to give the right information to certainly to our community. Marcus Antonio Castillo, again, thank you so much for coming in and stopping by for this conversation. Again, as we had last week, and thank you so much for coming out for us last week. Again, that was our pilot show, and the reviews and what we got from it, the feedback that we got was tremendous. And so thank you, for the opportunity. Again, we want to get better at this as we go along. But thank you for the support, and definitely you've encouraged both of us to go in and take this to the next level. So I was really appreciative of the feedback that we got. It was very positive. And again, so this whole show, just to kind of let people know, this is about again two guys coming from very different backgrounds who are looking for the gray area, the common area that links us as human beings. We certainly recognize who we are. I'm that Black ADOS American. Grooming and Reviews. He is a Greek immigrant. Do you have American citizenship now? Are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, the story of that very briefly is When I was born and raised and born over here, because my parents already were both citizens, I got it automatically. I didn't have to go through the thing.
Okay, so U.S. citizen, but still, of Greek immigrant, so
Yep, I have dual citizenships actually.
absolutely, absolutely. So both of us coming together, just to have a conversation. We're not trying to compare and say who had it better, who had it worse, or whatever. We're just looking for common ground. It's just as human beings to just have a conversation. And certainly, we welcome again for these first shows. We may not open up the stream to bring guests on, but we are interested in those who come from other perspectives, as you see just from the banner from the opening title videos. We want to look at this from a global perspective. So if you're from India, if you're from Asia, other perspectives that are not just based on the U.S. or just based on Greece or what have you, European. We're looking for to bring in a lot of different perspectives and just to see how much we are one world at the end of the day, that we're human beings at the end of the day. And some of the things that we divide over are really not that significant in the long run. Blaze McCurry, thank you again for joining us tonight. Really appreciated your input from last week. And hopefully we made an impact on you, because you were sharing just a lot of the same experiences that me and grooming had, you had as well. So again, thank you for being an active member in the chat as well. And hopefully we can keep this conversation going in the same vein going forward. So, but with that, tonight's show, last week we talked about school and just the educational systems that we came through, again, being very different, but we found the gray area in the realm of athletics, how sports that's been offered and available in the schools, how that was a thing that really helped us to come into our own, because we're kind of geeky guys. We were the nerds, we were the Big Bang Theory guys back in the day, and so looking for acceptance, looking for a place to belong, and we certainly found it certainly through sports and school, and that helped us even academically going forward as well. So we were able to find that. But tonight's show, we're going to be talking about marriage. Obviously, this is a common topic, especially if you talk about the manosphere, especially the Black manosphere. It's a constant thing. Certainly from the Black community, in terms of the issues that we may have there. But hopefully through grooming, sharing his perspective, living in Greece and wanting to learn more about Greek culture. Because I have to admit, the only reference that I had to Greek culture in regards to marriage, all those movies, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And again, he's laughing.
I knew it was coming. I knew it.
I don't know how much is, well, I'm hoping you can help us to separate fact from fiction tonight. What about that whole aspect is real, very much real? What is just fake for entertainment? And the question I also had was, where does the fat come from? Does fat mean like a big event, or is it the women, or I don't know where the fat came.
All right, so fat, I can answer the fat part right now and get it out of the way. The fat part is pretty much disclosure. Whoever doesn't know the actor, the woman, she's actually pure Greek like myself,
right,
from the sea. So this is meant a lot for her. So the fat part, meaning like we had a big family. There's some parts of Greece, a lot of people have a big goddamn fucking family. I'm one of the unlucky ones who has a small family. You can that be a curse or not. So that part I can disclose right now. Not everybody has a big family, but I will say a Greek wedding is a very religious thing and a certain thing. As a young boy, they keep telling you, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? How many
it starts early.
Oh, you have no idea.
Well, that's what we're here for. Open the Pandora's box. Right. Let it all.
I'm not going to open a Pandora's box. I'm going to blow the bitch up right now.
That's okay, fine. Whatever you want to take it. But again, this is about cultural exchange. So yes. I want to know about that. But maybe even before we get there, maybe we should talk before we get to the wedding part. Maybe just talk about boy meets girl here. Like maybe like dating or just how does dating. Okay, yeah, so let's start there before we get to the wedding piece. Let's talk about Greek people, male and female. And again, one question I had from the title of that movie was, how are Greek women typically shaped? Are they known for being slim? Are they kind of, because the women in the movie, at least from what I recall, they were all kind of a bit fuller. Let's say that fuller physiques. And again, a lot of guys are into that, So again, it's not. I'm not judging that or whatever, but your typical Greek woman, how is she? How does she look? How is she built or whatever? The typical Greek man, are they fitness fans? Like you go like Brazil or whatever, like everybody's into fitness. Like they get the fake BBLs, they get all everything is about body image is huge down there, and even guys will get fake pecs and biceps and stuff like that to look at different whatever. So so let's start just with the man and the woman first, and then we can.
I'm going to start with that actually. I want to start with the body thing really first. I want to get that out of the way.
Cool.
The physique.
Cool.
Okay, the physique is pre-marriage. You'll be all over the place. You could be you have a chunky chick, skinny. They're all over the place, like any other culture. Now, with the fitness part, I want to touch base really fast. Same thing with men. There's some fat man, skinny man, tall man, whatever. So the fitness part, pre me coming to the States, gyms weren't around like they are now in Greece. So gym was like, the gym, whatever. You got your exercise going playing soccer. That's where you got your exercise. You go with your friends.
Okay.
Usually front of the church, believe it or not, because the front of the church has a big field. So we play soccer. Just don't be like an idiot like me, kick the ball in the church by accident. Good thing I knew the priest.
Right.
So there we got your exercise. You got exercise, running around, like being a kid ended away. But the biggest thing about Greek people is fashion. When I mean by fashion, I'm not talking about you have to wear Gucci or name high brands. Get that out of your head right now. You can buy something like a Tanton, for example. Let's say this is, I don't know, let's say it's Tommy Hilfiger for argument's sake, right? It is not. And it is, you don't have to buy the name brand. You can buy the lower brand, like mom and pop shops. There are a lot of them around. So you can spend, let's say 50 euros, for example, and get 6 outfits for half the price because it's a mom and pop shop. You're not paying the high end. So the look, like the picture you're in, that is more like a typical European look, believe it or not.
Okay.
Wearing white a lot. Like my godfather, I used to call him Mr. Clean. My godfather was one of the few people who was very fit because he was in the military. 2, he wore white all the time. And 3, he's probably your secret club. He's a bold motherfucker like you. So
all right.
That's where. So now dating. You can meet people through a friend and stuff like that. So it depends where you're at in your, let's say, older generation will be set up a lot. My uncles, for example, both of them were set up.
So just through family, family and friends, pretty much they do the
through friends. Even somebody actually gets paid to do that for a living.
Okay, matchmaker.
Yes, matchmaker pretty much, and it's still common to this day in Greece. Is it as often? No. Somebody who's hitting almost 40. I hate saying that number out loud. Almost hitting 40. It would be more common for me or my mother or my father to go, let's match them out with somebody. So is it common? It was very common with my mother back then. My mother didn't meet my father like that, but both my uncles were set up through a friend of a friend, and that's how they met both their wives. Nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people are being matched up. They have beautiful weddings and everything. Now, a wedding is a big event in Greece. I'm not talking about just going to a church, throw the rice. You do throw rice at the bride and the groom.
Right.
It's not just that. It's a big event.
Okay, hang on to that. Again, we got to build to that.
I know. I want to touch one base before I go anything.
Okay, cool.
The worst job to have in any wedding club is the guy who has to pick up the broken dishes. I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay, gotcha. Sounds good. Okay, so now when you talk about soccer and whatnot or football, I mean, I'm sure Greeks call it football over there. They call it, so it doesn't matter.
Football, but depends where you're from. And like I used to call it soccer, and everybody looked at me like, it's football.
Well, yeah, soccer is more like a U.S. thing. Like in the U.S. they call it soccer, but in Europe it's like it's football, and like they almost get offended if you call it soccer. It's like no, we have the real football. But when you said that most people get fit because again you didn't have a lot of gyms and whatnot. But what about the women? I mean, do women play football as much as the men do, or how typically does a woman get in shape, or are they into exercise that much as the men?
Depends on the woman. It really depends. I seen girls play soccer with the boys, like a unisex thing.
Mhm.
Swimming is another big thing, huge in Greece.
Swimming is big.
Yeah, I'm not talking about going to the pool. Fuck that Clorox shit.
Yeah,
Let me
you're
tell
talking
you,
about like in an
a real
actual
swimming. Yeah.
Olympic pool
So
and doing the yeah.
I know I'm talking about in the ocean. I'm like, that is a big thing. I know people who used to go in the winter, like literally like 20 degrees to swim because they want to do this professionally at one time. Did they make
Right.
it? Nah. But swimming is a big thing. Swimming, running, soccer. It depends. Excuse me. Depends where you grow up. I know one or two girls I was fancying at the time.
Right.
They were martial arts like myself, and
Okay.
they were really into it. Again, martial arts from Okinawa Shorin here and Okinawa Shorin there. It's two
Mhm.
different animals. And
Right.
karate wasn't a big thing back then in Greece. It was like
Yeah.
school here, school there kind of thing.
Right. Right. So okay, so men and women kind of come, like you said, they kind of come in all shapes and sizes.
Mhm.
Fashion is major over there. Okay, so what's typical Greek attire for a woman versus you talked about the guy earlier. He could be dressed mostly in white or whatever. What's a typical Greek woman wearing? You're in the public square. You're at the mall. You're on the street or whatever. What's typical? Because again, I know you guys have like temperate zones also. So again, you get cold as well as very warm. So typical summer. What's a Greek woman typically going to be wearing?
So when I grew up, their biggest thing was back then was remember those leather tight pants with a high heel. I call it the Catwoman
Oh
look.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That was huge back then.
Leather pants are still. I mean, look, if you get the right
They're
ones,
coming back now.
I know leggings, or it's like a combination. You got the leggings sort of leather look as well. But yeah,
Mhm.
that was a hot, especially back in the '90s, starting in the '90s. That was when those came out. Yeah, you definitely get a head turn with that, especially if they got the heels on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a look.
So it depends where you're going. For example, let's say church for a minute. I want to hit this really important for a second here.
Sure.
Church, the priest will tell you, a woman should wear a skirt no matter what. They got very light at it over the years, but most women will wear skirts to church.
Right.
Now outside of church, there were mini skirts, there were jeans. The whole tight jean thing, it was never a thing in Greece.
Mhm.
It was literally like what it feels comfortable and looks good, it's what you want to wear.
Right.
Now low cut shirts, again, that wasn't a thing. They didn't. Now it's becoming more a thing now, showing more skin. It
Right.
depends where, let's say your group, your age bracket will be more, covered up more than more like my age and younger will be more showing off more, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, gotcha. Now, as far as the dresses, like especially
Mhm.
going to church, was there like a length? Is there a length? Is it below the knee? Is it to the ankle? What's typical? Especially
Technically,
like
it's
I said in the
supposed
summertime.
yeah.
Like what
Technically, it's supposed to be like around the knee area, around down that like. But if it gets up to the thigh, it's a little inappropriate to say. But over the
certainly for
year,
church,
yeah.
but just like I said, in public, you're out. It's 75, 80
Oh,
degrees outside or
oh yeah,
whatever.
you get mini skirts
You're
all
wearing a
the
summer
time.
dress or whatever.
Yeah, like
Oh, mini
mini.
skirts is a big thing.
Oh god, yeah, they were huge, and I used to love watching the girls walking by me.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Awesome.
I used to sit on my
Now,
patio, and someone walk by, I'm like, I love
right.
my life right now.
There you go. There you go. So women are out there, and again, especially well, before I get that, I want to get
Mhm.
to okay. So we have the dress. What about type of hair shots? Because again, from that movie, all the women had like this big curly hair. Like that was just a big thing. You didn't see a lot of girls with straight hair down the back or whatever. Is that just a natural thing for Greek people to
Most
have
women go natural
curly hair?
hair, and like back
Most
then
women
when
go
I
natural.
yeah, so
Yeah.
they don't use
Okay.
the heating
They
irons
don't
and
do
cook the hair,
perms and stuff like that. They
perms.
don't do.
They do it once in a blue moon, but they're thinking about the
Mhm.
dollar sign. How much is it going to cost me to get my hair cut? How much will it cost
Okay.
me to get my hair professionally done every 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks? And like whatever it is, let's say every 2 weeks for argument's sakes.
Right.
That can add up. Like 100
Yeah,
euros
but
is like almost 150 here.
right, but I guess, but some people like black women here, a lot of them will pay any price, for their hair
Yes.
care and maintenance. So it's like
Now,
whether it be
if
the
you go
natural, you
Greece,
get the perm, you get
yep,
the weave, you get
yep,
whatever. But
yep,
yeah, that's like a part of your budget. So
yeah.
it's not. So the fact that a lot of women in Greece that So they're concerned about their looks, obviously, but
Yes,
it's not as obsessive maybe as it is here in the U.S. or whatnot. Women wear
exactly,
their hair naturally and whatnot. They're not,
exactly.
or do they do a lot of color? Like blonde, making it blonde and all? Because I'm assuming most Greek people are typically brunette, or is there a spectrum? Are there
It's mixed
redhead
colors, mixed
Greeks? Are
colors.
there blondes? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so you get
But
notice,
with
but
dyeing
you
the
don't have a lot of
hair,
women.
yeah, like highlights or like that, it wasn't really a big thing. I saw,
Mm,
highlights. I would say out of 10 girls I knew, maybe one would do it, not because she
mm,
had to change it up a little once in a while. And that's
right.
cool. I get it, but not to do it like here. I see one girl, like 5 girls, all of them every week. They have their hairstyle. Like, geez, where are you finding money for this shit? Now
Yeah,
it's starting to catch up with
it's starting to
Greece
catch up.
too. It's starting to the nails and everything, but I don't think it's ever gonna pick up popularity like it did here. Like
Mhm.
you have to go every week. You need to do it, and has to be a part of your budget. It's like you're putting gas in your car.
Yeah,
Pretty much,
yeah,
that's what
I
it
can
came down
understand.
to be.
Gotcha, gotcha. Another question I had was, what about tattoos? And again, I know different, especially now, do you see more Greek women getting tattoos and sleeves and things like guys is kind of, I certainly see guys doing, but are women adopting tattoo culture in Greece now? Are you seeing a lot more of that than you did maybe when you were growing up there?
Okay, so pre me going pre coming to states, tattoos weren't really a thing in Greece. You may have
Hmm.
one like a sailor had one, like a little, like my uncle had a little bird, like literally it was not even half of this. It was like small. I'm talking about
Right,
very small.
right.
Now, at now it's like here, everybody's getting tattoos right and left.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
cannot tell you where I haven't walked down the street and I seen somebody have. I seen people have neck tattoos in Greece. I mean, a whole neck. I'm like,
Right.
to me, that's even extreme for my
When,
ass.
when the women also, the women are getting it.
I haven't seen a neck tattoo on a woman, but I wouldn't doubt it. They probably have it too.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay. And another point, question I want
Mhm.
to ask, as far as I'm really, before we get into the marriage piece, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
get
go
an
for it.
idea of like
Yep.
the common man, the common woman.
Yeah.
What are you wearing? How people are hooking up. What about body image? In that, like obviously Greece has a lot of beach. It's an island, so you have a lot of beaches and whatnot.
Mhm.
How do people look at like nudity, for example? Are there nude beaches in Greece? Are people, you know, because here I think in America we're kind of schizophrenic here. You know, what I mean, we're bipolar here. We're like very conservative in certain things. Like, oh my God, I shouldn't see that. But then there's corn all over the place, and people are just seeing a woman topless or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't do that or whatever. But I've seen like certainly in Europe, Germany for example, there are a lot more even in public. People may be out in certain places, nude or whatever, and there's like it's almost like they're a protected class there. So, but I'm not sure about the Mediterranean. How do they embrace that, or how do people just generally look at their bodies? And is nudity a thing that is something that's accepted in certain places there, or is Greece relatively conservative relative to what you may find here in the United States, at least publicly anyway?
So comments usually, and I don't care where you live. People are gonna make comments. You're fat. There's Porky Pig. There's the bulldozer walking down the street. They always make
Mm,
comments. You have those
mm,
assholes always around there.
right.
Is it as bad as like here? No, nowhere near as bad. I
Mhm.
think here is the worst because we always so focus on that little thing, but we don't focus on the inside, and that's where Greeks mostly, I think, benefit. They
Okay, yeah, talk about that. Talk about the mindset of Greek people, how when it comes to that sort of thing.
You are want to get to know the person inside. Again, this is my experience. Obviously, I'm talking about.
Mhm,
I can't
mhm.
speak for every Greek. I can speak for
Sure,
Panayotis.
that's fine.
Panayotis will realize it's not what the outside is; it's in the inside. And like
Sure.
you can be 300 pounds and you can get a tan very easily because you click with the person. It's the personality, the looks. The looks, the looking for what you're looking for. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. It's
Mm,
a lot like the family, where your family comes from. Like, if they don't look the dollar signs. Like some people say, "Oh, I'm
mm,
gonna marry her because she has 3 diners, and when her parents kick the bucket, they're gonna become mine." No, you don't give a shit about that stuff. You're gonna
mhm,
work your ass off like everybody else. If they
mhm.
have a business, you just become part of that business. they get you in before you become married to see if you're going to actually survive in the business. Because
Really?
yeah, like for
So
example, like
parents
you're not,
don't
go
so
ahead.
parents don't look at, or like here we always talk about, especially in these spaces here, we always talk about, traditional man roles. You have to be like the provider, the protector, and all
Mhm.
those things. So you're saying that finance, and again, I want to get back to the new question, so don't run away from that one yet. But you're saying that traditionally in Greece, it's less about your financial status in regards to how people pair up, or what have you. You're saying it's not as, it's more this the person's, the character of the person versus how much you're making, what your income level is.
It's a combination. So
Okay.
financial, it has somewhat to do with a little bit because they want to be able. Okay, my wife, your future wife will be taken care of, but it's more about the character and like they use ancient times. Ancient time, you had to be a strong man to handle yourself, to be the
Sure.
head of the house, the
Hmm.
king of your castle.
Hmm.
That's what it was for. But now, also over the years, it's not like now it's like a 50-50 mix. Like there too, like, okay, yeah, you might say no, but I make half the budget. So I'll
Hmm.
put I knew one of my neighbors. She and him or her husband may open a factory that does plastic bags, plastic
Yeah.
containers, anything. He was in charge the whole marriage because it was his
Hmm.
idea, his baby, his everything. You can tell who's in charge,
Right.
and he was the man. You can tell when he walked over the street and talked to me, like, "Hey, Panayoti," like he had a man voice. You know what I'm saying? And then
Hmm.
he carried himself. My godfather, great example, military guy. Everything. When he spoke to somebody, he spoke to you like a man. But then
Hmm.
you have somebody who's still learning to become a man. He's not carrying himself with that confidence.
Hmm.
Like for example, let's say my godfather, you and him met. Both
Hmm.
of you guys are going to are alpha males in a room. Nothing you're going to mean.
Hmm.
You're going to butt heads because you
Right.
were raised a certain way. You were a
Sure.
certain way. That's why I got this from actually from a Greek brother of mine, and now it's actually a thing. How do you learn patience? He goes to me. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, just you have it or you don't. I thought. He goes, grow a beard. Huh? Grow a beard. He goes, I mean, like, and his beard was literally down to here. I'm like, it
Oh
was a
man.
beautiful 12-inch beard. Yeah, you gotta learn patience fast. And
Wow.
like, and that's one of the examples. Like, that's why you see a lot of Greek ancients have beards. They have to learn patience.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. A lot of
They gotta,
statues. A lot of the,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So back to again the body image. So again, is nudity a thing? Is it like, are people like, you're at a beach and the girl's topless? Do people are like gawking at, oh my gosh, she's topless? Or is it like, it's like it's just a thing. It's just people are just not so hung up. It's like say here, like I said, it's just very, you get very dramatic reactions to it. People are either going to be offended by it, or people are just going to be like, it's just a natural thing. But if you go like to Brazil, you go to these other places in the world or whatever, and it's just, people aren't so anal about, things like, so you go to a beach in Greece, like what are you going to see usually?
Okay, that's kind of funny you said this because I have two stories for that. So you're gonna see
Sure.
most people dressed up appropriately, but you have few people who feel more comfortable being topless. You're always gonna wear something about. That's a must. This is
Okay,
how
so
it is.
not totally new. Got it.
Yeah. So I'll give you two good examples why this is like normal. Now it's getting more stricter because obviously we're going into a generation now with the PGs and everything. Like even there, you can look the wrong way, you can offend somebody, but it's not as bad as here.
Mhm. Right.
Um, so I was in Greece, at the beach, minding my own business, and a woman is swimming topless. My younger friend, he goes like he was fascinated with that. So he got the badofla. You know what a badofla is?
No, it's
You ever heard
by
ciclata?
Dolpha.
Yeah. You ever heard in
What's it?
Spanish called it's ciclata?
No,
No.
no.
A
Yeah.
sandal, a
Okay.
plastic sandal. You get slapped out across the head, you're gonna learn your lesson fast. And those
Mm.
fuckers hurt. There's no giving those things. It's like
So
like
these aren't your phone ones. These are,
oh no, hard
leather
plastic.
leather. So yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
fuck.
you're
Okay.
gonna get when you get whacked in the head, you're going to feel it. He got whacked in the head. You know how they
Right.
always joke around like Spanish women gotta learn how to aim? Yeah, same thing with
Yeah.
Greeks.
Yeah.
I think it's a mother thing. That's one example. The same day, a woman was wearing a interesting bathing suit. It was literally wired around her breast,
Hmm.
and the only thing was covered a flower, her nipple. That's it.
Hmm.
And people were like walking by, like, whatever. It's just
Mhm.
here, if you were wearing that type of
Right.
bathing suit, here, if people were like, like, yeah, 911. I have a problem
Yeah.
here. The cops will be there before you
Yeah.
know it.
Indecent exposure
Exactly.
is a people some will call it.
Like, I give a great example. Like, I remember getting pulling over and going to the backwoods forest. Like, I gotta go pee. Tree's right there. Go to the tree.
Right.
It's normal there. I remember my grandma going behind the bushes. Again,
Mhm.
normal stuff like that.
Mhm.
It just seasonal exposure, even to this day, I don't think it's a thing. I mean, it's probably is a law there. I'm guaranteed
Mhm.
it's a law, but nobody enforces it. It's one of those things. Like here, they enforce it very well.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. So again, a topless woman at the beach
Mhm.
isn't, no one's calling the police
No.
over stuff like
They
that. And
do have
it's kind
nudity beaches in Greece, but out of like 100 beaches, they're probably like 3, 4, maybe 5.
yeah, the same thing here. Same thing.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying in terms of like how in
Mhm.
public places how people look at things. Like, like here, like it took a long time, for example, like for a woman to like breastfeed. Like that was something that certainly in my parents' generation, that was just something you wouldn't just do. You wouldn't just whip out a breast and feed a baby publicly or whatever. But now it's become more accepted where, you're in a restaurant or whatever. And if a woman has to feed her baby or whatever, it's just,
Yeah, it's
you just kind of
common
open
now.
up and do that. It's not,
Mhm.
something that's, so it's like, oh my God, she's whipping the breast out or whatever. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
now again, it's like you're a protected class when you do certain things. And, restaurant can't say, hey, you can't do that here, whatever, as long as especially if you have the thing covering you or whatever. But it's definitely something that's more accepted here. So,
Mhm.
all right. So I just wanted to kind of get an idea. First of all, again, thanks for folks coming in. Thank you, Dr. Nakumbe. I saw you out there in the chat. Thank you again. Stopping by tonight. Clement Gray is also in, and yeah, Buffalo took a hard one to a hard loss today as well. So it's like it's like Mahomes is there. It's like Jordan, the Knicks trying to beat Jordan back in the day. It's like you can't, it's very frustrating. But definitely we're looking like we're going to have the Ravens and the Chiefs in the championship game in Baltimore. So yeah, it should be a great game to look forward to. But again, thank you everyone for again dropping by tonight and sharing with us. So again, I just wanted to have some just kind of lay the ground rules. Okay, so you got men, you got women, you hook up. Sometimes you're matched up, through friends and family and whatnot. Now let's talk. Let's take it to the next level here. Let's talk about courtship. So again, someone can introduce you to someone
Mhm.
or what have you. So what happens there? Is courting or dating? How does that typically work? And is there a mindset of you don't just date to date, but do you date to marry? Or what's the perspective like for most a Greek, and certainly from your perspective, being a Greek American as well as in Greece itself, if you can make that distinction between the two, when it comes to dating or courtship, how are they the same and how are they different based on where you're at?
So I always dated to marry. That's how I was raised. You don't date to just
You date to marry.
yeah.
That's just from birth. That's
That's how I was raised, and like I remember them telling me young, like I said earlier, like your son's gonna have some great grandkids, or he's gonna have a beautiful wife one day because he's a handsome guy, or he's a talented guy. He's gonna have a great woman. That's what everybody used to tell my mom. You know, or my grandmother, like he's a very respectful person. He has a good head on his shoulders. He's gonna be a good husband one day, a good father. That's all that you get beat up with. Good father, good husband, good father, good husband. I'm
Mhm.
like, and that's how I was raised. When I came here, I was like, yeah, you don't date to marry, you date to get laid. I'm like, really? Really? And I'm like, and when people were like talking about just getting laid all the time, that's all they're talking about in school. I'm
Right.
like, but we were talking about other things. We never talk about sexual stuff at school. We never brought that up in school.
Really?
Never. Because sex is very common and like it's common as ever. Yeah. You might make a joke once in a while, like, like, for example, your dick didn't work last night or something. Or go jerk off because you're pissed off, or, because you didn't get any. Small joke, very small. But at a percentage, 2 or 3%, maybe 5%, you joke around. You joke around, but you're not talking about, oh man, see, I would rip her apart. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what?
No,
So just teenage guys, youth guys, like sex isn't something that is um pursued or sowing your wild oats before, Matt. That's not something that was done back in your day, back in well, again, you were already in high school, you were here already, but I'm just saying, but in that culture, guys don't just talk about, you know, doing stuff with girls. That's just not a thing there.
no, I can tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna pull up your sleeve right now. I think BMU might be jumping on this one in a minute. Because your father would take you to the whorehouse and lose your virginity.
Oh yeah, you go into that. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, so
So
first of all, so is prostitution legal in Greece?
when I lived in Greece, yes, and I'm 99% sure it's still legal now. So how it
Wow.
works, you get a little card. It says, you're a prostitute pretty much. You get tested weekly, and I think it depends on the prostitute too. Obviously, you have the high end, low end, whatever. Most of them will carry you wear some kind of protection to protect themselves and that itself.
Wow. So it is part of the culture where a father, around what age we're talking about here? 13, 14, 15, like what?
Around there, I can't really give you an exact number because everybody's different.
Sure. Okay.
Me, it was a little different than everybody else in Greece because my father was here.
Right.
So, everybody's
You
telling me about
you had to
prostitute.
do it.
So I ended up doing it
Okay.
myself.
Okay. So let's say prostitution is legal, which is definitely here. I think there's only one place legal, that's Vegas, and even certain areas. I think Reno and some outskirts of Vegas or whatever, where it's legal. But yeah, definitely not even though it's prevalent here, it's still not quote unquote legal. But there's a system that they have there, again, the testing and all that kind of stuff that's there. And it's common practice where a father will take his son, when he hits puberty or whatever, to take your son to a brothel, or do they call them brothels there, or what do they call? What's it?
Budello, meaning
Bude-
whorehouse.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I've heard that in other context. So a bordello, you're taken to a bordello for the man to come of age. It's going to be in a controlled setting. It's not just going to be the girl in the locker room at school or behind the
Okay,
gym or
so
whatever. It's
I'll tell you my story, how it happened to me.
okay. Go ahead.
So we should throw X-rated up by now, like if we have one. So
Keep it PG.
yeah, I
You
am
good?
okay. I was just joking around.
Okay.
So everybody's telling me, you've been with a woman yet? I'm like, that's all. And you get in details, like, and
Okay.
everybody's like, okay, I'm getting left out here. What the hell's going on here? So I ended up talking to a couple of my older friends in church, not at church, outside of church, obviously, when we're
Mhm.
hanging out. And something like, and they tell me, yo, go to so and so place. Is that legit? This is where my dad took me. I'm like, okay, you need X, Y, and Z numbers. I can't remember how much it was. Having money, went there. They were looked at me like, young man, what the hell are you doing here? Like, explain to my father's in Greece. I'm like, I don't want, I'm in America, excuse me. I'm here in
Yeah.
Greece. And they go to me, oh, okay, we can take care of you. The guy brings me in. He goes, snaps his fingers. Girls coming lining up. I'm like, the first one,
Lining
I
up.
saw. Yeah,
Oh my God.
I saw boobies. That's all I cared. The biggest one I found was that one. I'm like, I want her. He goes, oh, you sure you can handle her? He was just messing around with me. Goes like, yeah. It goes to me. I think it was like in American dollars, like $20. And like they knew for your first time, you're not going to last more than 1 second. You know how it is when you're popping. And you go, she took care of me. She talked to me. She explained to me how everything's going to play down. She explained to me how to put a condom on. She even put it on for me and everything. And like, when it was going, like, that's it. And she goes, yeah, that's it, actually. I'm like, well, if you're around too, come see me in a week or two. I'm like, do I get a prescription or something? Like, no, just ask for me. And she walked away.
Wow.
And that's it. I'm like,
Wow. This is definitely not gray area here, because we don't do that.
nope.
So okay, so someone's asking, someone asking the price. So price range here, how much can do the conversion to Greek to American dollars or whatever.
At the
So how much
time,
we
it would
talking?
probably be with drachmas, maybe like $40 American right now.
$40
yeah.
US.
Yeah, it depends. It depends what kind of service you want to get to. If you want, like, say, like a escort service, you want to go out for dinner and you want to wine and dine kind of thing, and like remember like a wow factor, or
Mhm.
do you want something just like I just want to make my pee wet, and that's it. That's all I care about.
Yeah, man, we're still in the adolescent. I mean, the puberty,
Yep.
teen boy, whatever. So it's
Right.
tradition. The father takes the son to the bordello to gain his knowledge. But women though are generally chaste. I'm talking about not those in the bordello. So common women is the expectation that women stay celibate prior to. Is that at least perception? I know again, people are going to be people and they're going to do what they're going to do. But are women expected to be virgin or chaste before marriage? Is that a common cultural practice? Just as everyone's taught to be married, but are women also expected to be virgins or celibate prior to marriage?
So yes, they expect it, and I do this for a reason to be save yourself towards the end of marriage. I know a really good friend of mine who's Greek, right, and she's still saving herself, and she's in her
Mm-hmm.
42, 43, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, you didn't talk about it. That's something you didn't talk about. Like like you have your girlfriend, you go like, "Yo, dude, come on, tell me, did you? You didn't bring that up. You're going to knock. You're going to knock the hell out if you do that." It was a respect factor. I'm like, you never talked about. Like I was young and I was joking around with somebody who goes like, "Oh, I found out Father Alex, his daughter is going to be married. One of the guys who's in the church with us, one of the Alto boys." And outside, we're talking around. We're outside the church, away. I'm like maybe 20 feet away, maybe more, a couple blocks, pretty much.
Sure.
And I was talking about like, "Yo, dude, did you, how was it?" She goes, "You're gonna get knocked out, Peter." He goes, "You're about to get knocked out." And he put me on the side, and he knows I was younger. He goes, "Respect. You don't ask a man how his woman is, girlfriend, a lay, whatever. You do not ever ask that. That's so disrespectful." He goes,
"Yeah, that's pretty." I mean, back in the day, I mean, guys would talk about, especially if again, there was a difference between if it was your girlfriend or if it was just someone you just smashed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you just got with her or whatever, you may go back to your guys and say, "Yeah, I got with her," but if you guys got into like a monogamous relationship, then that's when you didn't talk about, you didn't bring up. It's like there was a respect factor if you were in, but if it was just a random. But from what you're saying, in Greece, you really don't have this idea of randoms. It's kind of like you have this formal process where there's a sexual education that a father will take his son through. Women are generally expected to be chaste until marriage. And generally, the culture is such that still drives towards marriage. So it's like there's a lot. So it's a very structured in certain ways in terms of how things are done. And there's an expectation, because I've gotten into debates with people here. I know it's one lady from church. I remember specifically talking to her about she was insistent that her son stay celibate before marriage. Just like, no, he's not. He might have been 13, 14 at the time, but it's like, no, he's not going to have sex before marriage or whatever. And then I asked her a question. I said, okay, but you expect him to know what to do, right? Let's say he waits till marriage, he gets there, right? A guy is supposed to know what to do. And then she said, well, look, the way I was raised, a guy is supposed to know what to do. But how is he supposed to know what to do if he's never done it? So she was kind of left like in a quandary to say, hey, my son's not going to have sex before marriage, but somehow on his wedding night, he's supposed to know what to do. And that's why I said earlier about in America, especially if you're religious, oftentimes there's this bipolar. There's this conflict that you have between, how you may feel about something and just sort of carrying it out to its logical conclusion. People don't necessarily think about those things, so again, everyone thinks about their ideas like in a bubble. But in Greek culture, there seems to be this recognition that men should be men, for all intents and purposes, and ladies should be in a certain, a way in terms of they carry themselves or whatever. But we're not going to, the area in the middle where just you have the randoms, you have the hookups and whatnot. That's just not something. So answer me this as well. Is there a lot of like teen pregnancies or, out of wedlock sort of births and if there is, like, how is that looked at in Greek culture and society? Again, from a Greek American perspective as well as in Greece.
I want to touch a couple of bases also on top of this before I'm going to answer that question. I want to touch
Yep.
a little history
Sure.
lesson on anybody. So
Sure.
when I was in Greece, 0. It was no such thing as teen pregnancy.
No teen pregnancies in Greece.
Nope. Because you knew where as a father, you better know where your daughter is at all times. Like if I had to shove a goddamn GPS up your goddamn ass, yeah, it's going up there. I want to know. Like obviously, the thing about Greece neighborhood, everybody knows everybody. So if your daughter's hanging out with the guy on his corner that he's not no good for, and he's going to be sleeping around with other women, oh, your father's gonna find out, and he's coming gun blazing down fast. That's not even a question. So, a couple things I want to touch base. The one thing about history lesson back in the day, in ancient Greece, even Vikings, even Romans, they to turning you into a man, they took you to a woman, like it was very normal, like as I said, mentioned too. But they would sit down and actually, literally, watch the process. The father would sit down and watch the whole process. Vikings.
Wait a minute. What, he would what? Wait a minute. Watch the process.
Yeah, I'm that serious.
You're expected to perform when your father's present?
Yeah, in an ancient time. Ancient time. I'm talking about. Man. I'm talking about ancient history. Don't say. Don't go to Greece now. And like, hey, I heard about from my buddy Greek. I'm like, no. Ancient Greece. Man. Watch the show Vikings. You're gonna see what I'm talking about. That part. He's literally sitting there and watching his son like going at it.
Wow.
It was very common back then to become a man. So here's where I will throw a little monkey wrench in the whole thing. So the hookups you're talking about. It doesn't really look
Shout out to Lost in Translation. Also, Brother Mandrell, the big picture. Thank you also for stopping through and seeing us tonight as well. Good to see you guys in chat today.
Okay, let's get serious for a second here. So the hookups, does that happen? Yes. Is it common? No, it's not very common back then. Now I know they're more common now, but they keep it hush. You don't want to spread it. Again, it's respect factor because it's a big thing in Greece is respect. It's like a kiss and don't tell kind of thing. You remember when we say that? Like, same concept. So the hookups can happen, but they're not that common. It's now if you see a couple, let's say not married, a couple living together, you kind of think at this point, like, yeah, they're doing something if they're not married. You know what I'm saying? So in Greece, as much as they don't believe in no sex before marriage, but they also believe outside the church, you should live with your girlfriend for a little bit, make sure you guys are match. Because you don't want to live with a woman, and the next minute you know she's throwing goddamn plates at you because she's pissed off because you came 10 minutes late. You know what I'm saying?
You saying the church endorses that?
No, the families does usually.
The family, but not the church. The church will still say celibate before marriage or whatever.
Exactly. You move in the day you get married.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's why I disagree with the church too. Because the thing about it, let's say I am with whoever, and the woman I'm with, we haven't lived together. How do I know I'm completely 100% compatible with that person when I live with her? How many times you've been in a relationship before you were married, and you would live with her for a little bit, and it didn't work out? I know, I've been there.
Well, that's why. Well, and that's why I was bringing up earlier. Let's get back to that part of the conversation. Talk about courtship. So again, however you hook up. So independent of courtship, there's an education. I'll just put it that way. There's an education that young men are brought to. All right. So then there's this courting process. So either you meet the girl on your own, or the families, arrange you with someone or whatever. Okay, you're dating, and this is under the prism of, again, you date to marry. So under those courtship arrangement, what's the typical dating time? Like, do they give you 6 months, 3 months, a year? What is typical before the people start asking, okay, when you guys set a date yet or whatever, especially if you're serious with someone, what is generally accepted in terms of the length of courtship, and is there anything specific to the courtship that you guys talk about? Okay, in terms of, because I think here the fact that, especially now people are so iffy on marriage now, you can waste time. You'll be dating someone for like years, and not really know them because again, you were never directing towards a marital state. So yeah, so here it's like unless you're very intentional, like I was very intentional from start to finish was 10 months from first date to marriage. So, but I went into it saying, look, I want to be married. This is what it is, and this is what we're going to do. And if you're with it, great. If not, next, move on. So I was very intentional about that.
Mhm.
But in Greek culture, how does the courting process work? Break that down a little bit for us if you can.
So the time limit of dating to engagement to marriage is really up to you. There is no
Okay.
time limit. Like I've seen people being together for 2 years, and then the guy gets on one knee and stuff like that.
Which again, for by American standards, though, that's pretty short. Like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, people be dating 5. I mean, if you ever watch any of the old Kevin Samuel shows, that women talk about that all the time. How we were together for 5 years, we were together for 7 years, we were together for 10 years. And he'd be looking at him like, and he hasn't proposed to you yet? I mean, so even
Yeah.
2 years is relatively speaking, especially to the West, I would say, that the US or Jamaica, whatever the country is, that's still relatively short. But I'm saying, but there is a time that when people say, okay, look, your mom's gonna come to you, your dad's, hey, y'all been together for 2 years. Or like the woman's dad may come and say, look, you guys been seeing my daughter for 2 years. What's up? Is they moving that direction? Is he gonna marry her or not? Or if not, do we need to move on or something? So talk about that.
So before you get on one knee is very common and it's still practiced to this day, I believe, to get permission from the father, the blessing from the parents, because you need,
Always.
yeah, like from my
I missed
knowledge,
that part.
yes, yeah,
I missed
like
that part.
yeah. So if let's say I was dating your daughter, for example, Paul,
Mhm.
and like one of the 4 ones you have, and I go up to like Paul, and like I need to speak to you in private. I spoke to you in private. Like, listen, I really love your daughter. Yeah, I want to marry her with your blessing. I'd like to marry. You say yay or nay. It's up to you, obviously. And
Right.
99% of the time, they say yes. There's not a
Right.
lot of reason. And say no. If you come into like that man to man, I'm like, I might take you out for a beer or just let's go outside for a cigarette or whatever, because smoking is very common in Greece.
Is it?
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever it is we, whatever, like I need to have a bond with my stepfather because you're gonna be my stepfather one day. I mean, like, okay, we're talking about Star Wars, for example, or we're shooting pool or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
We find common ground because we love the same person in the day, is that woman. So this it's weird because it's no set time limit, but there are some practices that still happen. Like, for example, like say, asking the father. Then it is an engagement party that you wear a band, like a wedding band. It's normal to where the priest comes to the house, blesses you guys, the whole thing. Then you wear the bands. It's not it's not a wedding ring, it's an engagement ring.
An engagement ring, but the man gets one also.
Yes.
Okay.
The woman gets her band and her ring.
Right.
Now the man just gets a plain band. So when you pick up the ring, you pick out the rings. You pick 2 sets: your engagement and your wedding.
Right.
You could do it separate if you want, but it makes more sense to buy them in package.
Yeah, kind of similar. Yeah, kind of similar here. But I never heard of a guy getting an engagement ring though. That typically doesn't happen here. You get your band at your wedding or whatever. The woman gets the engagement and the ring. But that's the first time I'm hearing that. Okay, so there's not a hard date, but it's almost like one of those sort of unwritten things. Okay, so
Kind of,
again,
yeah.
you with your lady for like 3 years, y'all just together, and supposedly you guys aren't hooking up because again, that's still kind of no, right? Or you keep it under wraps or whatever. And again, if she winds up pregnant, then that's definitely something where either that's going to be, I don't know if you have a concept of what they call it here, shotgun weddings, where it's like, okay, you got my daughter pregnant or whatever, here, you're going to marry my daughter right now or else I'm going to shoot you. I mean, that was the premise back then. But if by chance she gets pregnant before you do get married, then I would assume that would certainly expedite the process because no father wants to see his daughter certainly in that culture pregnant and unwed. So
It's funny you said this.
am I kind of hitting the
You kind of yes and no. So
okay.
2 things may happen here. One, you can be very secretly, like maybe your mother no or mother-in-law no, not the father, because you want your dick get chopped off. So you go through the wedding and everything before you start showing anything. That's one. 2, abortions are very, very high in Greece for a reason.
Are they?
extremely high. At the time, again, remember that. And the key word, I want to keep bringing that up. At the time, they were very common because she doesn't want to get pregnant before she's married because her father is going to find out, and her father is going to probably go to jail because he attempted first-degree murder. Because as you're a father. What is one major concern of your daughters you have to do is what?
Oh, definitely not getting pregnant for marriage. I mean, that's
Protection. Protect them. That's
yeah,
what I meant.
for
Where I
sure.
was going with it. Your job is to protect your kids, and no matter what comes to those doors, what comes your way, if you have to be you versus protecting them, you will put your life on the line any day. Same thing
Mhm.
with a Greek father. The Greek father protecting his daughter is like an impenetrable wall. That's how strong the bond is. And
Mhm.
my two neighbors, good example. One neighbor who I'm very, very close with, and two of their daughters. He only had three daughters, and his bond with his kids are so strong. It's not even funny. My other neighbor, he had two daughters, one boy. The bond with the father, with the daughters, was so strong. It's not even funny. Nothing can break that bond. Nothing.
Right, right. So I want to. So that's interesting though. So that's
I threw
another
monkey wrench, didn't
dichotomy.
I?
Well, that's another dichotomy here because so we talked about um, there's a general culture. There's this idea
Hmm.
that again people date to marry. There's also the expectation that a woman stays chaste before marriage. Hookup culture isn't necessarily um, uh, talked about openly, but we know it's there. And at the same time, there's also abortions, and also CBN. Correct me if back if we're still able to say that. If I need to use another word for that, deletions or whatever, I don't want to flag the network. So you can let me know if that's a word that we can use, or do I need to switch to something else? Again, I don't want to get BME flagged for this. But there's an outer perception of how the culture is supposed to run, but there's a still there that procedure is allowed there, and it happens quite frequently there. So we have to then say that hookup culture is relatively prevalent, even though it may not be talked about or people do it over. There's like a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of stuff that's done behind the scenes, but there's a public image and perception of, hey, we are a
Exactly.
certain way, whatever. But in the back end, there's all kinds of stuff going on,
Yeah.
and now, are there laws in terms of like, is there a period that you can have up to a certain number of weeks, or is there a permission? I was just as you were talking, I was just looking this up, and from what I understand, if you're under 18, I think you need your parents' permission
Now you do.
if you
Yes.
want to have the one. So so if you want to speak a little bit more to that,
So when I
in
went
terms
to
of the
Grizzly, it
rules.
was no such thing as age limit. Age limit is a newer thing, like the last 5-10 years. I won't say tops. And okay, I'll give you a great example, great story actually. My cousin, one of my cousin's friend, a family friend of ours, his
Right.
daughter got pregnant. Didn't know anything. I was like, she asked me, "Can you drive us to a clinic?" I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Get in the car. She goes in there. I'm like, why the hell are we here? Oh, my cousin's pregnant. I'm thinking the whole time. I'm like, oh, wait till your mom finds out, and my father, they're going to kill you. I got
Mm,
leverage now.
mm,
Making myself, I got leverage. And like, she comes back, like with her, our family friend. I'm going, like, I'm talking shit. And like, it's just, Panayotis, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up, shut up, shut up. She goes, you want to find out? She was pregnant, like, and I looked at her like, that 16-year-old, because it wasn't common for me to, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
It just is like people care so much, and it pisses me off to this day. Even my mom says all
mm,
the time. It's like you like you care so much what people are gonna say about you, and like people will be talking about you. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't give a shit what they say about me. I know
mm,
what kind of man I am. End of the day, I keep telling her.
mm,
But she cares so much. Like I remember when I got my first tattoo, it was my Greek flag, the very first one
mm,
I got. And she goes,
mm,
you are embarrassing the family, like, for a tattoo.
mm.
they care about the image so much. The image means everything to them.
Right.
And
And
me
now the
growing,
tattoos are, as you were saying, now the tattoos are pretty common now.
oh god,
So
yeah,
as far as so
yeah,
so a lot of social taboos are broken, or at this point they're accepted. But yeah,
yeah,
but that's very. But again, America, again, sure, you know, I mean, politically and everything that's been going on with that, people come off as like family values and all these kind of things. But again, we know these things are happening. We know people are out there. The how we talk about sex education in this country. People talk about
mhm,
abstinence, and we should be teaching that. And statistically, we're saying like it doesn't work very well, and we're not. And I think I did a show last year on BMU talking about the idea of have we been honest with our kids? Have we been giving kids the proper education that they need in order to not only protect themselves but also have a healthy and balanced view about sex and sexuality? And how we're kind of in two worlds here. We're like, no, we need to keep this out, keep it out of schools, keep it out of the whatever. And I said, fine, if you want to keep it out of schools, I don't mind. If you want to not have it taught, especially to the grammar school students and whatnot. But you at the same time, you can't deny the reality. In fact, we had Brother Hink up, and he was talking about, look, in middle school, these kids are doing it. They're finding condoms in the bathrooms and whatnot over here. So we can gloss over and say, all right, this shouldn't be talked about, but kids are doing it. And if you're the parent, and if you're not going to be educating your kids on sex and sexuality and how to protect themselves, then we're kind of lying. It's like this, but like you said earlier, image. How societies, how cultures, how they project image over everything, but the real is usually always something else that people cannot come to terms with and say, hey, this is happening, but let's open this up and let's really deal with some things. Because again, I mean, no one should have to go. I always say, if you have to resort to those measures, then there's something wrong. I mean, there's something either in the communication and the process, or something that's not that for a person to have to go to those measures, something got messed up somewhere. Now, where you want to solve the picture, that's a discussion. But it's just interesting how you have a society like yours that has so much tradition, and how people look at things, but on the other side of it, there's this other culture that people don't want to talk about. But it's prevalent because
yep,
clinics are fairly I mean, here you got people protesting clinics and things like that, or people with signs and picket signs that say, hey, right to life and all this kind of stuff. But in Greece, it's like, hey, it is what it is. People are doing it, but we'd rather have these measures than not.
I think it's
So
because the way I grew up was different than most people.
mm,
Because I grew up in Greece and here, so I was exposed to a lot of things, and I kind of had the attitude like, I don't give a shit attitude. I still don't give a
mm,
shit attitude. And you know me personally, I don't give a shit usually. I'm gonna be who I am. I'm gonna be real. And sometimes
mm,
the image, you are fake sometimes, and I
yeah,
can't be fake. I cannot do that to myself.
yeah,
Like all this you see is me. This is my man cave, my studio, my office, my whatever. This is who I am.
mm,
I'm not gonna be pretending like what will people think about me. Okay, think of what you want.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you see me at church, most Greek men who do have tattoos, they're covered up. They don't want they have that mentality from the homeland.
mm,
You know, I'm the only one who actually has exposed tattoos. At one time, a long ass beard is coming back. Don't worry, long hair.
mm,
I was literally the black sheep of the church.
mm.
I'm not
Wow.
even joking about it, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay being a black sheep because I know who I am in the day.
Right. Well, I think what also just the life that you had, again, living in both cultures, U.S. and Greece. Again, you've been exposed and you can see things more so, because like when you're indoctrinated into something, like it's like
Mhm.
like the world is kind of closed off. You're in a bubble, and a lot of people grow up in that bubble and they don't have the exposure to see a lot of what's going on. But you see everything, so you can say, people in Greece, they can say, look, this is how it is, but you see the real. Again, you've been to the clinic. You know what's going on in these spaces, even though people don't want to talk about it. So you're not you're
Well,
not
time out 1
necessarily
second.
raised with
I have a
bondage. Yeah,
picture I want to show everybody. Do I
sure.
send it to your email? How do we do this? Because I'm not sure how to show this picture.
Well, I think there should be a share. If there's a present box, if you look at the bottom of your
Yep, I see
screen,
it.
there's a present. So if you do that, if you want to bring your picture up, I think it'll allow you to do that. Now we're not going to get flagged for this, right? You're
No,
not
no, no,
going
no, no. It's a picture of a woman with tattoo.
to.
It's nothing. Don't worry.
Okay.
As much you think you got excited there. No.
I was getting worried, not excited. It's a difference.
Go ahead. Keep talking till I bring it up.
Okay, so that's something that I think, and again, I've heard Black David talk about Nigerian society. In fact, we were just talking about some of this on Friday. That even in Nigerian culture, like there's a lot of demands that are often placed on you, especially if you're firstborn or a man or what have you. And for some people, they accept it, they kind of roll with it. For some people, they rebel against it. But there's always the what's real and what's the image, and certainly protecting the image, even if it's not right, even though there's things that are wrong, the image is like over everything. And I think that certainly happens in a lot of cultures. I have a lot of my good friends of mine are from India. So again, we've had conversations about how that culture works, how marriage works, and also what young people today, I think, what they're seeing, because a lot of them like see living in America and seeing like the contrast. They've lived outside the bubble, so they know what's real and they know what's fake, and a lot of them are rebelling against it. It's like, look, I don't want necessarily that. Yes, this is culture. Yes, there's certain aspects I appreciate about it and that I love about my culture, but I'm not going to be quote unquote married to it to such a degree where I'm just going to turn a blind eye to stuff that I see that's not right, or I'm going to claim to be something that I'm not. And so I think a lot of them are starting to, and I think this is what, certainly with the Gen Zers and the generations coming after them, I think, this isn't just something that's happening in the US. I think a lot of cultures now with the internet, now that people are able to see globally what they weren't able to see before, I think a lot of people are going away from a lot of these traditional tropes or whatever, or looking at it differently than what their parents or what their grandparents had looked at. So it's interesting that you have this, you have this perception, but the reality could be very different for people. But whenever you're ready, you can either show your picture, or if you want to now get to,
it's not
if
letting
we
me
now,
send it. It said it's not letting me actually show it for some reason.
well, if you send, well, you can mail it to me, and maybe I can try to,
Yeah, let me
maybe I
email it
can
to
bring
you.
it up and I
Easier.
can try to show it later. So if you want to send it to me, send it to my Hotmail, and I'll see if I can post it. But we can certainly move on from here. So boy meets girl, or boys arranged with girl. There's a courting that takes place. There's no predetermined time, but at the same time, there is an understood time. There's like an unwritten rules. Okay, 5 years together and still not married, may give you some looks at the family functions, or someone may come and talk to you and say, "Hey, are you going to do this?" Well, okay, but now it gets to marriage. Okay, now it gets to, okay, we got a date. We're going to set this up. We're gonna do this. So let's talk about the wedding aspect of it and what goes into that, and then maybe to close out, the final segment for the evening would be married life. How does that typically work? And even just from a philosophical, if you could, I'd really like to know, like, Greek values on marriage. I know you said a lot of it's tied to religion, Greek Orthodox and whatnot. So, and again, we're going to share, since we're both Christians, so we're going to share that, some of the common things that go to our scriptures and whatnot when it comes to that. But just in terms of Greek society and culture, how marriage is viewed at, marriage protection, the laws, the benefits, are there societal benefits, are there laws that are in place that help people stay married? Because I'm always talking about in this country here, one of the problems I think we're having is that people complain about people not getting married, but I think you have to incentivize it, especially in this culture now. Like I always talk about taxes. Like, essentially, if you marry in this country, if you marry filing jointly versus married filing single, the exception or your expense deductible is essentially doubled. But what if you tripled it? You know what I'm saying? If you're married, you get to exempt off 3 times rather than just 2 individuals. I mean, make a financial instead of make it easier for people to be married. I always thought would be something that would help encourage people to get married and stay married in this country. But if you're going to have it where, it's 50-50, it's 50%, I can get in, I can get out. There's no incentive, there's no motivation there. So let's talk about the wedding aspect of it. So we're getting to my big fat Greek wedding part. And then let's wrap up with marriage, married life, possible even like divorce. If you want to, close out with that, because I believe you said did your parents officially divorce, or they just
separated? They cannot be in the same house, same property, because Vietnam's last World War II will break out. So if you hear DEFCON 5 from me in a text message, you know what happened.
But I'm saying, but are they officially divorced though?
No.
Yeah, same with mine. My parents basically broke up when I was born. 1970 was the last time my parents were official. I think they tried a couple reconciles when I was like 13, 14 or something. But again, they both had issues. My father's drinking and my mom's mental illness. That's not a good combination. But there was certainly, with my parents' generation, divorce was just never done. You could be living a totally separate life. You can have children from different women. You can have whatever. But the D word, it just wasn't something that you did. So the idea of living, we're not together, but we're not divorced, was definitely something that, for my parents coming from the rural South, Georgia, was definitely something that was something that you just didn't, that was, you would think God would come and strike you guys down if you took that final action.
So I want to, my feedback on that. Yes, you're 100% right. My grandmother, her whole wedding was arranged, like from a young kid, so she didn't get, because it was during World War II, so she didn't want to get taken away from the from the Nazis. So if she was married to my grandfather, she was protected in a way, because she was like used. They looked at it, so she never divorced him. She actually was madly in love with him. So, like, again, this is in her generation, I think RP maybe have more feedback on this than I do, is saying sex, is a voodoo, or you don't like sleep, like that is like a very, my grandma never talked about sex. Never.
Yeah.
I never heard a word out of her, excuse me, about sex, anything like that. Even with, with her girlfriends, how you eavesdrop sometimes as a kid, you're like, oh, I want to know what the hell she's saying over there. And like, never. I never heard her say anything. I heard her say, go fuck yourself to people. Okay. But I have never heard her say anything like to her friends, her close friends, anything sexually. And I'm like, that's how they were. You're like, that's a voodoo stuff. You were not raised like that. You were raised a lady like.
Yeah.
And my mother, it took her years to understand. We're not in that generation, and now she's more vocal about stuff.
Right.
Sometimes a little too much, in my opinion, but that's a whole different story. But the point I'm trying to get to with that is she is more modern than my grandmother was. My grandmother was like, she would not, skirt all the whole time. She was, cooking, cleaning, the old school.
Yeah.
Even older than our pain. And no offense to R-Pain, I respect the guy so much. I mean,
shout out to R-Pain.
Yeah, but I'm using his as an example because most of us know who he is.
Right.
It was like the time, like it was a different time back then.
Yeah.
And personally, I kind of miss those times, to be honest with you, because those are the times like you actually got to know somebody and not click away.
To an extent, but as we talked about earlier, there's the lie. You know what I mean?
I'll give you that.
People aren't talking about stuff. People aren't, really putting it out there. And at the other end, like I said, you got a lot of I'll just say deletions. You got a lot of that going on. Teen pregnancy, whatever it is, STDs, whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff going on, and people are not taking it head on. And so you can talk about the image. But again, oftentimes the reality is something different. So for a lot of cultures, I think around the world, now again in Europe, like I've heard, like Germany and whatever, they're like very open. Like sex ed is early. People are pretty open about it. It's very much it's not a taboo subject over there because they make it, an open thing. But in some of the more ancient or older societies or whatever, especially if you're religious based, I mean, Europe, really isn't as religious as it once was. It's certainly a lot more secular. They're having the conversations and they're trying to, create an environment where you don't have, even though they still have access to stuff, but you don't necessarily have to go to that because people are educated and it's an open conversation that's being had. So we can still dance around and be like, shh, like don't talk about that, but we're still paying a price on the other end because again, these girls are going through a lot of trauma, over some of these decisions that they have to make, and a lot of times they're doing it alone. So
See, here's the thing. A couple years back, I went to DC and had a vacation. I ended up having a conversation with the museums I went to, a historian, and it was a military museum. And the conversation we had, he goes to me, "Do you know how this country was made of?" And I said, when we all learn from books, Columbus and all that stuff. I'm like, no. He goes, two things this country was made of is people think it was money. Wrong. It's guns and sex. I looked at him like, gun and sex. That makes no sense. Think about it. Back then, guns were first coming out. So we came gun blazing, taking what wasn't ours to ours now. From our
Right.
Indian man. Okay.
Right.
And what happened to his lady, the Indian woman? I go, I don't know. I'm like, I didn't think of it. I didn't process 1 + 1 = 2. He goes, we raped them. Now think about it. How was
great? Try to use grape instead. It's just in the space here. Just try
and a
to
ball wing ding on like. And now I look back and now to this day, like we still use sex on everything. Think about it. Turn the news for a second on. They were very, pretty nice.
Right.
Or let's say a movie, great example. Or anything. Like if you're advertising a gym, you're gonna find the hottest girl out there with the less clothes on, with the tightest stuff. Like this is you in 2 weeks from now. Obviously, that's not the fact.
Right.
But you see where I'm going with this at this point.
Right.
We still use sex as is the moneymaker. And to this day, I'm trying to figure out why do we have to use sex? Like I was watching Fluffy, and they were making a joke. They were making a Pepsi commercial, or it was a whole second ago. And go Pepsi. Everyone was like, the whole thing was a girl just shaking her ass to have for like good 15 minutes, and it'll be Pepsi. Yeah, that's an example. Like we still use sex as a selling point on everything. Think about it.
Yeah.
Like Siri's voice is a female. Why does it have to be a female? Why couldn't it be why couldn't we be BMU's voice on that thing? He could be making money and paying us to do this for shit. And I mean, I know I'm using that as an example, but you see where I'm going with that. In Greece, they're not trying to use sexes are everywhere, even in Greece. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's not as right here in your face, 24/7, anywhere you walk. And like you cannot move without seeing something sexual. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about it.
But it's at the same time it's there because we know what the outcomes are. So people have been doing stuff. All right. Wow. All right. Well, let's move to the wedding aspect. Okay. So you get down on one knee, you propose to the father, you get the father's permission, and now it comes to the wedding aspect. So what are the things that go into that? You being a groom or groomsman. What typically goes into that?
Okay, so there's a different way Greeks do it than American weddings. So first I already went over the engagement part. So you have to get an engagement party. Priest comes out, blesses you guys. You have a little party. People bring little gifts. After that, you have to pick a gubaro. Gubaro is pretty much the best man. So you don't pick one, and she picks one. You only get pick one. The Cubaro is going to help you. Safoni. Safoni is you would put a little. How can I explain it? They're round, like a. Remember back in the Olympics when they used to wear those things that
those reefs, like little
reefs. Okay, like a reef almost, but it's connected with a string. That is what back in the day symbolized your marriage, not a ring. That symbolize marriage. Yes. So your Cubaro, the first time he holds it and he walks around your church as he's ducking rice at him at the same time. So that's the point. Let me see if I can bring a picture up that.
Now, what is
So
rice? Before you do, let me see if I can share my screen because I wanted to. Let me see if I can do this. Share screen. Great early marriage. I'm trying to do this also. I select the tab to share window. There it is. Let's try that. Right. Something coming up? Can you see it?
I don't see it on my end. I had a hard time trying to do it. I'm like, maybe I was
Yeah, I'm
like,
trying to do it here as well. Streaming and sharing. All right, we'll work on this. Like I said, there it is. There
okay,
it is. Took a
that
minute.
is a Greek woman. I got it off a Athens Elite Tattoo Shop in Greece. That
Mhm.
gives you an idea how the, you know, um, tattoos are in Greece. That is a woman that has a full sleeve in Greece right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's definitely becoming more commonly accepted in the culture.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I just wanted to share that. If you had anything else to share, you can send it to me as well, and I can look to bring that up. But I think what you need to do is you need to do a share your screen, and then you click on there's a window tab. You go to the window tab, and then once you do that, then you can select the picture, the window that you want to share with your picture in it. So I think that's how it works. But if you ever run into a problem with that, you can just let me know. Okay, so you have the wedding. You're wearing the headpiece,
All right, hang on
and
one
you're
second.
saying that's yeah.
One second. I want to show you this thing if it shows up. Did it show up on your end? Because
Not yet, but it may take a few seconds before it does. But again, you go to the window tab. You say you want to share your screen. Then you go to the window tab, and then you pick the window that you want to share with the picture in it. And it usually takes about a few seconds before it shows up.
okay, so let me continue talking. I will say, go ahead, finish
Yeah,
your question. I'm sorry.
yeah. So again, you're saying in Greek culture, even though you have the rings, but what symbolizes the marriage is the headpiece that the
Yep.
gentleman wears, and the woman, I'm sure she gets a similar head covering or a headpiece.
They both get a one. It's one. It's one and one, and the strings connect
String
it.
that
The
that
bond.
connects them together.
The
Right.
bond. We call it
Right.
Stefania. Not sure what it's called. It's like almost like a wreath, like a little crown, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they go down to the aisle like that a couple times. They go 3 times around. The priest, words, I don't remember exact words. It's been so long since the rice is just something they do. It's celebration
Well,
thing.
yeah. I mean,
It's like the balloon, like we do bubbles
I've
here.
seen the rice being done here. I just wasn't sure what. Now, from what I understand, the rice meant something about fertility or something like that. Or when they throw the rice at you, it means like it helps you in terms of children and things of that nature. I never quite understood what the throwing of rice meant, and I certainly know if it started in Greece or do other cultures do it as well. But I know I have seen it in some American weddings here. But yeah, but it's definitely something that's tied to Greek culture. And if you know what that is, if you could expound on that.
I don't know too much about that because the rice I don't know, but what I do know, in the end of the ceremony, they give you as you walk out the cubaro, pretty much the best man or best woman. It's only one of each, like I said, gives out these little baskets that look like the best way I can explain them, like white nuts. They're actually very sweet and they're
Right.
delicious. And everybody gets one. Like, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Like, get to the point, like some people sneak into wedding, like wedding crashers, just to get these cubayaderes because they're so delicious. Everybody wants to eat one because they're so delicious. But you only get them in weddings. Now, dress shopping is a completely different experience in Greece.
Mhm.
It's not like you going here is like obviously it's like you don't brought the grooms doesn't see the wedding what's it called my brain just froze the bride's dress, same concept, but the price tag, we're not spending 20,000. It's more realistically, and they
Mhm.
don't understand you're gonna wear this once. Why go so crazy? You're not rich.
Right.
Like I
Right.
hear weddings go up to, oh my god, I think some of them I heard we go up to like 20,000 some dresses and like ridiculous money. Like
Oh
I
yeah, I mean these days it's yeah it can, especially in the U.S. I mean it's almost like an unlimited budget, especially if you come from money, designers and and whatnot. You can get to six figures for some wedding attire. I mean here, a lot of it is about the event itself rather than the marriage. A lot of people put a lot more value on the wedding, at least certainly with American women, especially the value is on the wedding itself, not the marriage. Because you can take them in for the money that you're spending on a wedding. That could be a down payment on the house. It could be a down payment on,
Exactly.
or even your vacation. I mean, your Hawaii. You go for $20,000. You go pretty much anywhere in the world. Turks and Caicos or what have you. But there's so much emphasis on the wedding rather than the one day versus the commitment. Now, typically, are Greek weddings, are they typically a day, or can they expand multiple?
It's a day. No, it's one day. So how it goes, you go through the church first, you do the ceremony. From the ceremony, you stop by the house because everybody throws money on the bed as for good luck.
Money on the bed.
Yes, money on the bed. And you can buy
like that.
Yeah, you can buy a gift too, because the money on the bed could pay off your wedding, the whole thing. From there, you go to where the whole you rented out. You're gonna have food, dancing. The bride and groom has the first dance, the cake. So here's where the fun begins. Greeks are known for breaking plates. So they arrange how many plates they want. They're cheaper plates, like I think like 25 to 50 cents per plate. It's nothing crazy amount money of that. So those plates, the worst part of the job is the guy who has to clean up the plates.
Night. Right.
But everybody's dancing and having fun. It's a good time. They go usually to like maybe past midnight, like more than 2 o'clock. Nothing crazy. Most of them tried not to have a wedding on a Sunday because they have to work the next day.
Right.
You see
now, what's the word? Now, I've seen with the plate breaking.
Opa.
Opa. What does that mean? What is that about?
Opa means like bravo, like opa, and like it's not really definition behind it. It's like it's like dancing like happy, like how I hate to say, like Jews say their word for when they pop something, similar concept, pretty much. Think of it, opa, and like it's like fun time. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I looked up a little bit on the rice throwing. So again, it says it goes all the way back to the Romans, but there's other cultures that have been doing. The Celts did it. So again, it was meant to for the bride and groom to bring fertility, wealth, and good luck to the newlyweds. Other cultures do different types of crops at the married couple, such as oats and wheat and corn. So it's not just inherently to Greece or whatever, like other cultures have done it, but it's meant to sort of bring you that throwing meant to bring you success in marriage. So I guess it's a pretty common. I mean, I don't see, especially in Black communities, I don't see us doing that too much. I mean, we have like jumping if you're African American, jumping the broom is something that's oftentimes done in traditional weddings. But rice throwing, some people kind of take it or leave it. But again,
so is one island in Greece do a little differently. Crete has mixed feelings with Greece because they say they're independent or they're part of Greece. They go back and forth. They want help, they got back in Greece. If they don't want help, they take over. We're independent. So in their weddings, they use shotguns. They go outside and
shotguns.
Pop the shotguns in the air. And like a Middle Eastern wedding, pretty much, they do a similar concept.
Right.
Okay. That's why I say the guns are very liberal in Greece. They're not like here so hard to get one. Some places. So everybody in Greece has a firearm somehow, some way. So you hear boom, boom, boom. Like, there's a wedding going on. It's normal for us. Rice throwing, normal. Kumbaya is normal. Stuff to me. Like people hear that, like, you throw rice? I'm like, yeah, why? We do balloons here. I'm like, really? I laughed at it when I first heard you blow balloons at a wedding. I'm like, well, people gonna hate me then because I want people throwing rice at me.
Right. Wow. Okay. All right. So the wedding is going to be about a day long. First of all, again, thank you for guys who are coming in to see us. This is the gray area, myself and grooming. And we're just talking about marriage. Well, we've kind of gone over. We went from, men and women to coming of age to hooking up to courtship. And now we're at the wedding aspect of this. But again, thank you all who decided to come in and see us this evening. I see Andre Terry. What's up? I know both our Eagles and Steelers. And yes, we're going to be watching the playoffs from home. So but always good to see Andre in the chat. Also, Scam Likely, thank you for coming in. Hopefully, if you want, you're certainly free to sprinkle some dust in this place if you want to. But always good seeing you, brother. Lady Novoa, who supports all of the shows on the BMU network, and additional, she definitely keeps active in these spaces, especially in the chat. So thank you, Lady Novoa, for gracing you with your presence tonight. Again, for all the people who showed up tonight. Again, I know the playoffs are going on. There's all kinds of things. You got to work in the morning. And one thing that we do want to do is, again, we don't want to have this show go past 2 hours. So again, we want to make sure that people can, get on with things and whatnot. And but again, we're just having a culture exchange. So I've learned some stuff tonight. I mean, the brothel thing is still something I keep going back to, that I'm sure a lot of people
probably too.
They want to look at and say, hey, we may need to implement some of this in the U.S. or maybe that's a good idea that I take my son to come of age there. But again, we also talked about some of the again, image versus the reality. So there's an image, a public image of how society and culture is supposed to work, but then there's the reality. Again, deletions in baby deletions in Greece is pretty common over there. It's legal over there. So certainly there's a lot of different things that are going on. And so again, that's certainly something that in America, we're having these debates over certain political and social and moral issues or whatnot. And certainly Greece is not immune from that, or they may not be to a point where things is maybe out in the public, but we still know these things are happening. So again, just finding this commonality between our cultures, and, certainly some very unique differences as we just talked about, but also some of the commonalities as well. So the wedding's about a day. And is the concept of a honeymoon, is that typically a now I know some Indian friends of mine, and in that culture a lot of times, and again, and I can't say just culture, because again, India's 26 independent states, 26 languages and whatnot, so everyone's going to do things a little bit differently. So I don't want to talk about them as a monolith, but typically what happens is honeymoons isn't necessarily a thing, but your first night, okay, is typically like arranged, like the bridesmaid, so to speak, or the bride's helpers or whatnot. They actually prepare the marital bed. So like when you go up to your room or whatever, it's kind of laid out. So they may have rose petals or something like that, but it's almost like they prep the room for you before you engage on that first night. As at least as it's been explained to me in Asian Indian culture. And again, for those of you who are in the chat, if you know of, if you come from a different ethnic or cultural tradition that talks about marriage, or if you do things a little bit different, we'd love to hear from you. So you can certainly be sure to post in the chat in terms of different traditions that your culture may do when it comes to that. So let's move quickly into.
Before I forget, check your email, because I sent you that picture. I tried.
Okay, I'll do that
several times.
I'll do that. So
go ahead, ask me questions. You're doing that.
Yeah. So the first night, is that like a formal thing? Is that something that is an aspect that the Greek culture that they set up for you or whatever, or you guys just kind of go off and do whatever, or do you say, hey, you know what, we're flying off to somewhere and we're just gonna get lost, or how does that work?
That is a $1 million question, because older generations, like my grandmother and my mother, even older, they would have a similar process. Like somebody set up the bed, make sure they lock the door, have a guard up front, you might hear some banging, some screaming. You get the idea. They're gonna finish the deed. Now these days, honeymoons are still a thing there, but they're not as common, because honeymoons are expensive. They might go away for a few days to somewhere in Greece. Let's say you live in Athens, you want to go to Crete, one of the islands, or
it's weird because in a way you're almost in paradise. Like I know some friends of mine, they just came back from Greece recently, so it's like you're already in a touristy sort of destination type place already. So how is it for the people that are there that you're kind of already in a spot that a lot of people would love to get to, and it's just about finding a spot that you can enjoy that you haven't seen.
See, here's the funny thing about Greeks. and I'll be the first one to admit this. When I lived in Greece, I took my surroundings, my Acropolis, the ancient artifacts up in Greece.
Yeah, crop.
Granted,
Yeah.
I'm like, it was
Yeah.
like, whatever. It's everything now. Now, I cannot wait to go back and go visit that shit again. I'm like, it's funny how this happens because back then I was like looking at it, I'm like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But now I look back, I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's why history. I'm a history fuck. I'll tell anybody, whoever knows me, personally, like you know me personally. I'm like, I love history. We have definitely conversation about
Right.
ancient stuff, and
That's right.
like they're part of Greece I haven't visited. And like I know I joke around, I'm going to Sparta, but I actually have not visited the actual city of Sparta, and that's my next time I go to Greece. I'm going to Sparta, and I'm
That's
bringing
common too. Hey,
yeah,
look, that is more common than you realize. Again, a lot of times you're in where you grow up, you take for granted where you live, because in the back of your mind you'll be like, oh, I got time. Like I only went to the Empire. You're familiar with the area, so like Empire State Building. I've only been there one time in my life, and I went there maybe like 4 years ago. But I know for a lot of people, especially if you're an immigrant here, a lot of people they make a plan. So okay, we're in New York, we got to see Empire State Building. We need to go here. We need to do just different things. But I know Indians, for example, who haven't gone to the Taj Mahal, and they're in the same city where the Taj Mahal is. But if I go to India, that's like something that I want to see. So it's just interesting how a lot of people just don't take advantage of or explore the local around you, in part because you always think you're going to get there, but it's like anything else, unless you're intentional about it, you're not going to put in the effort to get there. So that's just, it's interesting that dynamic also, that you can be in Greece and all these ancient civilization stuff, that if I was going to go there, yeah, Acropolis might be one of the first things I want to see, but you're there or you've been there and you haven't been able to see it. So that seems to be
I go use New York for example. I grew up in New York City pretty much.
mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
from New York. Grew up in New York City. There's a lot of part of New York City I haven't seen, and people don't. Have you been there? Like, no. Do you know that thing was there actually?
Right.
Thanks. So it's same thing in Greece. There's so much history in Greece, the islands like that, and like it's hard for one person at my age at the time to visit everything. And like I had no money. I was a kid.
Yeah.
They took me where they
Here's the
took me.
picture that
Okay,
here's the picture that you were talking about earlier. So again, if you look, there's a like a crown like around both the bride and the
correct,
groom, and there's string that sort of ties them together. So you talk
correct.
about tying the knot. It's
Yeah.
like it's
So
literally that
yeah,
you guys are
literally
together.
tying the
That's
knot.
beautiful.
And you can
Yeah.
see the priest the whole time he's walking around with them around the church. He's holding the Holy Bible the whole time because the Holy Bible, you live, die, and breathe by that in
Mhm.
the Greek culture. And it's we try. I do have questions about the Bible. I'm not gonna sit there like say I'm a perfect
Sure.
Christian. I'm not.
Yeah.
Trust me. And like the whole no sex before marriage is not happening. This guy here.
That piece like too
Yeah.
much. I got it. Right.
But you get what I'm trying to get with this.
Yeah.
So the Bible, that's why it's so sacred. You see how is in the picture is out of gold, is leather stitch, is one of the most beautiful things you see in a church. Is one thing is so sacred. It's not even funny.
Right, right.
Mm.
Now, just
It
speaking,
always go ahead.
not to delve too much, but now most of our are in Greek. So
Mm.
I know like a lot of English Bibles, they're translated from like the Greek and the Latin and whatnot. But the ones that you guys use is pretty much it's still in Greek for the most part, right? So you're getting,
Yeah.
I guess, some of the original writing, so you can read Greek, and so that'd be
My
when we
Greek
get to the
reading is not the greatest anymore because I haven't used it for so long. Not like my
right.
English. I'm more stronger in that and the other. But if I have questions, I got my personal Greek Bible downstairs. My mom, like
Gotcha. So
or I
you can
go
go
to
to
my
that.
church, Father Costantino. He's very knowledgeable and he's bilingual in both languages and he reads Greek and in everything to the T.
Right,
Like
right,
that's why people would look at me when I tell my services is only one service. We don't have two. It's never been two in Greece. It's always been one. You got AM service and that's it. But it's a long
really.
service. Yeah. So we usually get done with just one language between 10:30 and 11. Depends on if anything special
So wait a
holidays.
minute. So your church services are like 30 minutes.
No, it starts at 7, buddy.
Oh, it starts at
7
7.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. to what time?
About 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Also 3:30. Oh, okay, so you like the black church then? Because black churches we can go for the Catholic Church, Catholic Mass. You're out in an hour, pretty much. But
Yeah.
Greek
So
church, you're in there for a minute.
yeah. So the rule of thumb of the Bible says we need at least one priest and one other person to actually do service.
Mhm.
Now, you the first reading of the Bible is number one. You have to. They say traditionally you're supposed to be there before the first Bible comes out. The
Mhm.
second reading, then the Holy Communion. You're not
Right.
supposed to leave church till the Father says, "I'm in." But most people after the communion, like, I don't see you. I see you at the coffee shop. Um, Again, that's the difference about Greek and American.
All
Greeks,
right.
Greek Americans will not leave till the Father says, "I'm in."
Right.
Greek, yeah, you see him slowly dipping out before the church is over, and like
Right.
before you couldn't find a seat, like, oh, where? Oh, there's a lot of seats left over now.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Yeah,
it's
3 hours. That's a long time. But
yeah. Now
we'll
American
save.
Greek,
Yeah.
it
Go
will.
ahead.
I'm looking at more like 11:30, 12 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock be done.
Okay.
Depends on the priest.
All right. So the accommodation is certainly in the U.S. to speed things up. But
The
if you're
reason is
English,
two languages say that's why it's longer here than in Greece.
gotcha. Gotcha. All right. All right. So you got the so just back to the and we're you got about 15 minutes left in the show. So I want to get to let's talk about um, married life. In terms of what a traditional Greek household, like, and also like divorce, like is I know, like I said, with our parents, they're separate, but not, but they're not
Mhm.
divorced. What's like the divorce rate like in Greece? Has it been since you were there when you were young, and now is it escalating? Are more people getting divorced? Is it more common now? Is it
Now
still
it is
kind of
more
like a
common.
societal taboo?
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like here, divorce rates like over 50%.
Yeah.
So what about in Greece?
I'm not sure the rate at the moment, but it's
Mhm.
very high too in Greece right now. I would say if I
Is
had to
it
guess a number between 30 and 40%
okay? So
versus
it's pretty common,
1%. Usually it was that's how it was literally 1% at one time. Now,
right?
let's say after marriage, what is the everyday couple? Is like,
Yeah,
okay, a
yeah.
wife is a wife. She cleans, cooks, does the wife duties. The man goes to work, takes care of the bills. That's a basic, the old school mentality is still how it is in Greece.
Okay, so women are going to be more so the caretaker of the home in terms of the domestic duties or with the work. Now, do women typically have careers? Business
Some of
women,
them do.
corporate
Some of them do.
women. How's some of them? But even in that, they still are very traditional when they're home.
Yes, they're very
Is
traditional.
so they're able to. Because one of the problems that we always talk about here, and especially in the U.S., especially with Black women, as the spaces that we're in here, is that a lot of times they don't know how to take off. Yeah, you could be in corporate, you could be a VP, you could be whatever, but it's like when you come home, a lot of times there's still that friction there. Like you're still trying to be the head, you're still trying to be the rule. Because like I make as much money here, I make more than you or whatever, so I should set the rules. But you're saying that in Greek culture, though, it's still pretty much a woman. She can go out, be a businesswoman, or be, a career woman. But when she comes home, though, there's that hat. They're able to take that hat off and be more accommodating to their men. Is
Yes.
that generally
Yeah.
even today that's still the case?
Yes, it is very like when you're home, you're Mrs. Little for example, my last name. Miss
Hmm.
Little is Miss Little. She's, Anna or Sophia, whatever her name's, Olga, whatever.
Hmm.
She's my wife at home. She walks in as the CEO of so and so, and she's like, just snapping her fingers at me and like, go get me coffee. I'm like, who the hell are you
Hmm.
talking to like that? I'm like, no,
Hmm.
it doesn't. No, 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 no. It's wife is wife, husband's husband. I'm not saying if she's working late, I cannot cook dinner for her. Some men would do that because if my wife works not late hours
Right.
because she's making a little more money to support us. I'm say for example, I'm a chef like I am now, but
Hmm.
she's a CEO at a bank who makes more money. The
Hmm.
CEO, of course, and she has a late
Right.
meeting. I can go and cook for her and help her out a little bit. The whole mentality is still there, but now the husband he can't help her. He can cook, he can clean too. It's not like you do everything.
Mhm.
You know,
So
I
there's
come
more
home.
of a There's more of a like a more modern accommodation,
Yeah, I would say
the more
it
give and take.
depends the mentality you were growing up with and the kind of woman you were looking for. It could be a 50-50
Mhm.
50-50 relationship. Like I always say it's 50-50. Like if I need to cook and clean, I cook and clean. I'm not saying I'm the greatest, folded clothes, for example, but I can do what I need to do and make my wives a little happier.
Right,
But it depends. It depends on the person. It really depends on how you growing up and
right,
how. There's a lot of factors in the middle. So, but
right.
I would say I'll stick to what I said originally. It's more 50-50 now than before. It was like more 5 to 90. 90% was mostly the woman and 5% was the man.
But we're also seeing, as you said earlier, the divorce rates back then was like 1%, but now it's
Yes.
like 30, 40%. So it seems
Yeah.
like,
So for
again, the
now,
cops.
literally just looked it up. The rate right now overall is around 14,000 divorce rates in Greece.
I mean, we mean 14,000. Is it percentage? Is it like,
Yeah, that's how
is it
many. It says 13.92. Actually, exactly.
okay? So that's still relatively low.
Yeah.
13.92% divorce
Yep.
rate. So you're just talking barely like 1 out of 10, just a little over
Yep.
1 out of 10 get divorced. That's still pretty low relative to here. Like I said, here it's over 50+% here, and it's even more so in the Black community. So that's still a very low divorce rate compared. Now, you could probably pull up a chart, or I could probably find something later. We could probably bring it up maybe as an intro for the for our next show, comparing
Mhm.
to like you were there in the '90s, and then I can probably find a chart that'll graph like if the divorce rate's been increasing over time. But you're talking about a 13 under 14% divorce rate relative to a 50+% divorce rate here. I mean that's pretty dramatic. Now again, we're not saying just like in any statistic, we're not saying that these marriages are ideal. Like obviously, like we always said, the you can be apart from your spouse and not get divorced. So it doesn't mean, because even the ones that are married, that's not necessarily indication that they're happy also. So again, there's still the work of what not just being married, but how do you stay married, and how do you have joy and happiness in marriage? I think those are things that still anybody has to work on. You can't just take for granted that you've been married. That's why for me, like in my banner, I say marriage season 27. Like at this point in my life, I take my marriage like 1 year at a time. So again, we're in our 27th season, and when our anniversary comes on March 29th, we'll start our 28th season. But everything is like one at a time. So this season is going to be evaluated, just like in the NFL. This season is going to be evaluated. What went well, what didn't go well, what could we do better? What are the goals for the new season? And obviously we're in a state of transition. Again, our daughters are grown. Except my youngest is going to be turning 21 in May. So that has something back. Something literally just happened today where my car insurance went, because in my last policy, my little daughter, she turned 21. So when she turned 21, there's a change in your auto insurance rate when they turn 21. And I'm going to have another one that's turning 21. There's going to be a change there. So there's just different things that every year brings up that you need to address. But the idea here is, you still have to do the work in marriage, whether you're Greek culture, Black culture, white, whatever you come from. There's still the work of marriage, and that conversation will go on forever in terms of how people how people make things work, or the things that people do to make a marriage last. But we're talking from a cultural perspective. Marriage in Greece is still highly valued by the
Yes.
society, to the extent that people are still doing it at a relative low rate, especially compared to what's going
Right.
on in the US and what may be going on in Europe and other countries. I mean,
So
that's a terrific. If this country ever got to a 15% divorce rate, that would be marvelous.
I
But
have a theory behind this.
we're just trying to cut it to 40, and we'd be happy with that.
I have a theory behind this. So my
Sure.
theory is because 99.9% of Greeks grew up in the church because that's how you're raised. You get
Hmm.
born, you get baptized, you marry, you die. You die by the cross. Simple as that. The
Mm.
reason I'm pointing out. So it's not like I'm meeting somebody else who's say Baptist or Catholic. Yeah, Catholic and Orthodox are very similar, but they're different at the same time.
Yeah.
So we might start butting heads what we believe. So when you're growing up with the same values, with the same beliefs and same everything, it's less chances of everything, I believe. I know I'm being a little bit hypocrite about what I'm saying here, but that is my personally. I believe that Greece has less chance of divorce rates because most everybody has grown up to similar ways. Not everybody.
Yeah, no, there's
You see where I'm
certainly
going with this,
something.
right?
There's certainly something to be said for what's it called, monolithic.
Mhm.
Having the same mindset, and the issue is like some people try to force that, and some people it just kind of grows naturally through culture, and people see the benefit of that. But that's always a fine line between control, having like one voice versus allowing people to explore individually. I think both of us, we can certainly agree that we're kind of individuals at the end of the day. Like I said,
Correct.
there's obviously there's things about Greek culture that you appreciate and that you love, about being Greek or whatever, but there's other aspects that you can leave. And again, you may be looked at in certain ways as being a bit maybe of a not necessarily an outcast, but certainly different from other traditional Greeks in terms of how they conduct and do things. But I think we can also recognize that, um, even though we may be individuals, there's still value to the culture. I think a
Correct.
lot of times what's happening here is you talk about like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like bump the culture, bump everything. I'm just going to be reckless in everything that I'm doing. I think a lot of people are, wish I could playing house in Greece. Well, certainly, that's at least that's the perception. But certainly, like I said, deletions, certainly happen there and whatnot. So there's still that underbelly, but we still see value in the culture. We may, in certain aspects, live outside of it, but we still appreciate what the culture gives and how it benefits the society as a whole. So, you know, Peter may live outside that a little bit, but he's not saying, oh, well, Greek culture is trash or what have you. You appreciate what it does for people, and I think that to me is a balance that I think a lot of people, hopefully, that people can have. Yes, I mean the system. I said the system is never going to be perfect,
I agree
but can
100%.
you improve it? Can you make it?
So
Yeah,
I want to touch the base on something on marriage.
sure. Yeah.
I have a few people in my life that I say they have a great marriage. One of them is my best friend, CQ.
Mhm,
He's been with his wife, I think, 20 years now. And I
mhm.
asked one day, "Am I having a beer with him?" I'm like, "How do you do it, bro?" He goes, "Simple. I take my wife on a date." I'm like, "What?" I make time for my wife, in other words.
Yeah.
The second person I look up to a marriage, and believe it or not, Paul, is you, because I see
Oh,
you,
thank you.
and I'm not trying to be a kiss, you kiss your ass. I'm serious, because we talk about this stuff all the time on the barbershop, on our personal conversations and stuff like that. And you say the same thing in a different words. Like, you still take your wife out on date nights. You still do things your wife, like, because you have kids, you don't like neglect her. And that's what most
Yeah, the
people
wife.
do.
Yeah, the wife has to come. In my world, the wife comes first. And I remember telling my kids when they were, just getting into their teenage years, yeah, if I have to choose between your mother and you, I'm picking your mom. Like that was just something that I just believe that if we're good, then the family is going to be good. And just knowing my wife, a lot of times, like she'll, like any mom, they'll overextend themselves to their own detriment a lot of times, and then that creates a problem. But kids, they can be flexible. I mean, obviously, there's certain occasions and needs where they need you for certain occasions, but you can manage that. But your wife, oftentimes, we talk about suffering inside. We talk about mental health earlier. Like, are men
Mhm.
we talk about on Friday Barbershop, are men mentally, are people checking in with us saying, hey, are we okay? Because we have so many responsibilities that we bear. So women also have those pressures on. So you have to make sure that your wife is whole. You have to make sure that she's taken care of. You have to be there to listen in order to make sure that she's whole. And again, that's going to apply to any marital relationship. I mean, the society side, Greek society you may still have the advantage of having the society that may put certain pressures that, hey, I don't care what's going on, inside your house, you don't care. But again, you guys stay together. I think it's the general thrust of Greek culture and society that keeps people together, but the internal work still has to be done. So again, I don't know in Greek culture, like are men apt to take their wives out or treat their wives in certain ways or what have you, or is it more like, hey, woman, I'm home, bring me a beer, whatever the tropes are, whatnot. But any relationship requires that work. It requires listening. It requires that understanding, so that you can not only be married but grow in marriage. And I've always described, for me, marriage is a journey. The person, like I said, I got married because I wanted to have sex. I was a relatively new Christian, and I wasn't going to be out there. I admit it. I wasn't going to be. I lived an abstinent lifestyle for about 3+ years, and it was hard. It was like, you're a Trek guy. This was like Amok time. This was Spock going through Ponfar and fighting Kirk at the end, to get to Pring. This was some serious stuff that I was going. So I was like, look, I need a wife, or I'm gonna die. That was the mindset. So then it was like, okay, well, if I gotta be a husband, then what I have to do. So I didn't come into marriage being what you may see now, which again is still far from perfect. But certainly marriage has certainly given me a platform, I think, to be a better man. And certainly with my, spiritual development, being around good men who had marriages and whatnot, seeing examples of people who had long-lasting marriages, you learn as you go along. And one thing that I certainly see with a lot of people, again, it looks like it hasn't hit Greek culture yet, but certainly in American culture, what we see is like everyone's looking for the perfect situation. So you guys check off all these boxes, 10 out of 10, cook, clean, everything be there. Except my wife didn't know how to cook when we got there. I mean, her early dishes were pretty bad, and she'll even admit that. But she got a lot over time, and now it's like I look forward. She makes one of her favorite meals. She makes the smothered turkey wings. She makes that, and it just knocks me out. I'm just done. So you grow as a man, you go as a woman, if in fact you are dedicated to traveling this road together. The things that keep marriage together: patience, sacrifice, respect, duty, loyalty, honor, all those things, regardless if you're Greek or Black or whatever it is, are still going to be the things that hold you down at the end of the day. And some people get it. Unfortunately, too many people are not getting it. And one of the things that I'm certainly dedicated to, and certainly in the BMU space, is to bring that perspective. And hopefully people can learn from our example in terms of what we can be doing to help people not only just be married, but stay married and grow in marriage. I think is certainly something that anybody could benefit from. And but yeah.
The only Greek men that I know are divorced are in America. And one of them actually was a good friend of mine, lives in this area. He's a Greek. I mean, off the plane Greek, and his wife was Greek American, and they are divorced now.
So and we're going to talk about this in upcoming shows.
Yeah. The only thing I want to talk about, whatever is going on in the world, I started slowly. I call it the poison. The poison slowly is into Greece, and like he's seeing things like on the my mom had like told Elas TV. Elas TV is a streaming service we can watch to Greece. From here.
Right.
And I watch stuff like, the fuck is going on over there?
So you're seeing the changes in society.
Oh God, yeah. I saw when it started happening here, but I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I'm saying.
And that's one thing we got to be careful, because again, even though it's like anything else, you have curves and you have arcs. And so, okay, so 14% divorce rate, that's kind of like right here. But you'll be surprised. It's like the Titanic. Like when the Titanic got hit, nobody really knew what was going on. It was just like, okay, but when that water started filling in, it was like, by the time they figured out what was going on, it was already too late. And so, so even in Greek culture, the numbers, at least the way things now look a certain way, but that could certainly change very quickly unless people are diligent about being intentional about wanting certain things not to change, or to buffer things. And again, I think the big danger, I've seen it here in the US, especially in the 60s. I'm a kind of student of history like you are, and I've studied like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And one of the things that happened in that time is that Americans came of age of the hypocrisy in the nation. Like Vietnam was a major turning point in America. In the 60s, you had Vietnam, you had the civil rights and the civil rights movement. Those two things really took a lot of the scab off of the culture. So we talked about image earlier. We talked about how how people perceive society and how things are supposed to work. And then through Vietnam and other means, we saw how society really was. And then what happened was a lot of people then decided to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And they said, look, screw all of it. And we're just going to do. And so you had the free love movement, and you had all the different social changes that, had major impacts on the society. So Greece might be another one, unless people decide to really take inventory over, hey, let's address some of these issues. If there's high deletion rates of young girls in Greece, hey, let's look at society a little bit and seeing how we can help these situations. But you're looking good right now. But if the dam breaks, or if the water gets in there where, you guys could be like at a 40 or 50% divorce rate within the next 10, 15 years. It's certainly very possible, because really just the changes that happened in this country over the last 50 years. They'd be like, well, what happened? Black people were married at an 80% clip in the 60s. And now it's, they say black women are married at a rate under 30%, and most black men are single and childless right now. So, we've seen the impact of that. And that is certainly something that, for Greek society, it's something to marvel, but I think it's happening globally. As we become a more global world, people see more images of what's outside. Like I said, with my Asian Indian friends, kids are marrying later, if at all. They're starting to cohabitate
their culture,
versus getting married.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Paul, but
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. From my understanding, their culture gets married very young, even more younger than even Greece.
It changes. It depends. It depends where. If you're in a rural environment, then the women tend to get married younger. But I'm in the IT field, so I work with Indians all the time. Generally speaking, you're talking about around age 27, 28 for the male or the female. Because again, generally it's, you're, a lot of times you come to America, whatever, you're getting your career off the ground. Again, Indians have no issue with women being, having a career. In fact, it's almost expected. Like if you're in IT, you're looking for a wife, you want her to be in IT also. You don't necessarily want a mismatching of people. So they have no issue with the career thing. Because like, again, when you come home, you're still going to be a wife when you're you're still going to be a wife in the house. So about 27, if you are in a developed area, or if you're in a career field in IT, doc, engineering, medicine, or whatever, because again, you got to kind of get through all that stuff first. And then people I think are marrying a little bit late, but in the rural areas, you'd be 19, 20, 21 getting married in India. If that's going to be your life, you're going to be a domestic essentially when you're at home. But for young people who grow up, I'm talking about immigrants like who are my age, who came here like in the 80s and 90s, and now their kids are now in their 20s, just getting out of college. When they talk to their kids about marriage, about, the future, about, arranged marriage is definitely out. So like I said, with Asian Indians, they still do the arranged thing. They still do the horoscopes, the astrology, all that stuff. Again, those stars have to literally line up. The parents have to agree and co-sign in India. But here, if you grew up like an American of Indian descent here, don't even come talk to me about arranged marriage. So already an aspect of that society is gone for them. There's like, they want to pick their own people. They may marry out. They may marry like an American, white, black, whatever. So the whole idea of, caste system and you got to marry certain people or whatever, a lot of them already checked out on that piece. And some of them are even contemplating if they want to get married also. Here, a lot of Asians, you talk just like here, 30s, 32, 35 years old, people are starting to get married because they want to, live their life first. So we're already seeing that, in this country, or just Western ideals, it affects everybody. I talked about recently, and I'll start to wrap up with this. I was at a family function, Sierra Leone family, African country, predominantly Muslim country. And again, just talking to, because my daughter's best friends with one of the daughters, and I was just asking them about marriage and cults. Like, when do women from Sierra Leone to get married? Oh, I said about 27. And I said, okay, then these are 22, 23-year-old girls. So I just said, oh, okay, in 5 years, we're going to see a lot of women, because there was a lot of girls there, all these cousins in the same age bracket. So okay, so I just said there's going to be a lot of weddings in the next 5 years. And the girls looked at us like, I'm not looking to get married anytime soon. So I think there's certainly something about American culture that even has for people, even if you grow up in a Greek culture or an African culture or an Asian culture or whatever, that has people looking at the institution differently. So I think we definitely have some things over here that are having global, certainly local impact if you grew up here, but the danger is potentially having global impact because of access to American export, our music, our culture, and whatnot. Is that going to have something long term? But I think it's certainly something that we need to be mindful of, whether you're in this country or whether you're outside the country. But marriage in general seems to be something the more advanced the society gets, marriage or those traditional relationships seems to suffer from it. And I think it's happened in almost every culture and society if you look at it over time.
Yeah,
But
I kind of agree with that too because like I dabbled in dating sites before, and I was wondering what Greek had, and it was a Elite Greek one I checked out years ago. It was my dad's idea actually, and it just again the same bullshit, every fucking dating site, but the whole dating thing, like in the Greek culture, I can say Greek, in the Christian Orthodox culture,
mhm,
they're trying to start a new trend now is to have like a gathering with single women and single men, like
mhm,
speed dating kind of thing. Like, hey, introduce each other. If you don't click, that's fine. Maybe you made a friend at least.
mhm.
Maybe a friend or a friend knows somebody or something like that. It's just they trying to push you to get to know each other more. And then it's like where I live in Strasbourg is a very small Orthodox community, very
Right,
small.
right, right,
Now, if I go to Bethlehem and St. Nicholas, that community is humongous.
right, right.
And it tells you they're going from A to B, A to B. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So they definitely, but still, but from what you see, even in the U.S., so
Mhm.
for the Greek American, are you seeing more of the same in terms of younger people? So again, your voice, okay, 30, 28, 30-year-old Greek woman, Greek American woman. What is her mindset when it comes to marriage, family, traditional values, home? Like what are you seeing? So that's I wouldn't call that your dating pool per se, because again, you'll date anybody pretty much. But assuming that that's an area that you've looked at, what are you seeing in Greek American women versus women from Greece that either gives you pause or something that's appealing about
So
them when it comes to that? And we could probably start to wrap up the show on that
yeah.
last
So
point.
the
So,
Greek American one, and like the way I want to say that specifically for a reason,
mm,
is they're stocked up. They think this shit doesn't stink here,
mm,
and they're wrong. Like I have to good example. I was talking to somebody months back. I'm talking about
mhm,
before I was even know what a BMU channel was. And I'm having a conversation with her, and friendly conversation. And I know her mother. We kind of know each other from mother knowing stuff like that.
right.
And she turned around and says, and I go, too bad you don't live in PA. Maybe we could grab dinner or something. I mean, she lived in Georgia, excuse me, but she lives in Florida. And she goes, you really think you have a chance with me? What the hell? I replied, what do you mean? And she goes, look, I work out every day. I own 3 businesses. I have 3 degrees. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was going on the list. You would never had a chance, even in your dreams. I was like, wow, gold digger much.
Mm.
And that's all I said. It's gold digger. And like some of them are stocked up gold diggers, even in
Now,
the Greek community.
does she come from like a prominent family? Like, do you guys have do you
Oh,
have,
I can tell you where her
like
family comes from.
we talk about like, again, I want to use the proper words here, like people who come from upper class, like they talk about the the Jewish American princess or
Mhm.
are there similar groups like in Greece where you have like these upper class families that, especially in America, that try to show off um, um, their position or whatever, and the girls that grew up in that they have a certain thing, or she's just a regular, regular woman who just thinks, like you said earlier, that she's just
So her mother is a personal trainer at Retro Fitness who works with the CEO of Retro Fitness.
okay,
Great. Kudos to her. She's
right,
divorced mother. Okay, shit happens in life. I get it. I think her mother raised her in a way like, up her to like
okay. So it's not just a class
yeah,
thing.
but
Yeah,
her mother loves hanging out with Greek singer. I want to thank Dr. Kumba for sending some support towards our way, and so thanks, Doc, for that. But the only thing I will say is everybody shit stinks eventually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it
But
at
are you?
that.
But are you hopeful? I mean, so looking at again, just the Greek American woman, the way you see them moving, because that could be one example. But are you seeing that as a trend? Are they? You know, what are you seeing in your community in terms of women, and saying like, is that still an attractive pool to date from? Or you're like, nah, this is a wrap. Or if I am going to marry someone Greek, she has to come from Greece. Are you of that mind? So just kind of try to
I
sum
would
it as we
not.
go into our final thoughts. And again, thank you
I
everyone.
would never tell somebody I will meet her in Greece because I know a good friend of mine who's dating her boyfriend is in Greece right now. I couldn't do that because I'll be honest with you, I could not be loyal because I needed cheeks. I'll be straight up and honest with that. But
Right.
I would say the Greek women here, some of them are sweethearts. They're great people. Some of them I'm like, yeah, I want to date you because you're so stuck up. It's not even funny.
Mm-hmm,
It really depends how you're raised. That's what it comes down to. If you're raised down to earth and being, same thing with Spanish, Black, Asian, Indian. I can go on and on. It doesn't matter what you're from. Like I said on the first episode, you cut yourself. You cut yourself. We both believe we both come from Christ. End of the day, it doesn't matter what your nationality is. We're trying to find the gray line. I think that's where we found tonight is the gray line is that both sides of our culture, they have stuck up women who think this shit doesn't stink. And there's some great women out there.
Yeah.
And I think some of them are a little bit damaged because they have some bad relationships and they have trust issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when they meet a good guy like myself, or like yourself, or whoever, if you were single, obviously, I don't want to get you in trouble, but anybody, even the other guys that were on the barber show, there's some great guys like Lost. And me and him are great guys. And he was like, yeah, you're damaged now. I'm like, okay, how do we break that wall now?
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem we're having. And this whole internet thing, the whole thing, I think it's destroyed dating. I don't think it can be ever recovered at this point.
Mm.
I think single, like final note I want to bring in is actually very common. People are my age now around this time when they're older to actually start settling down and having marriages. This is where the prime of marriage is in the 40s in Greeks.
40s.
Yeah. Yep. 35 to 40.
So people we're going to talk about that probably in the next show, by the way, is going to be talking about growing up. Growing up in Greece, growing up as a Greek American, we're going to explore some of that we already touched on tonight. Again, the brothel situation is definitely something that
Paul's favorite part.
We may need to revisit that topic again. But certainly, again, appreciate anyone coming through tonight. Just want to give final shout outs here again, Dr. Nakumbe. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for the gifts that you've given us. My brother Trey Ferg, my ball brother in the B7 network. Thank you for also coming through. Anton, also appreciate you coming through as well. And again, we're going to continue this conversation. I really appreciated the show tonight. You definitely give me some different perspective in terms of how society works and does things. And hopefully through this as well, we can see where, again, we can find some commonality. I mean, there might be some things that, we can benefit from looking at how Greek culture does it or how Indian culture has done things again. But we're also saying that, look, no one's perfect in this thing. No one's got all the answers. Again, the personal development you still have to do. You have to, especially when it comes to marriage, you have to decide that you want to be married. You have to decide that you want to stay married. And most importantly, you have to decide that you want to grow in marriage. Marriage is not a static state. It is a continual process of growth that you get to the next level. I was in church today, met a couple that was married for 6 years. We got a couple that's been married 60. And like I said, I'm in the middle. So I'm looking ones to the left and ones to the right. So I'm on the journey. I'm trying to get to the other side where this couple was. And this couple's been married for 60 years. They do everything together. I mean, literally, it's like you don't find those guys ever apart from each other for like a day. They do everything together. So it's like,
oh, wow.
It's like I'm trying to get there. And for the couple that was married younger, if they can look at us as an example or as a model, then more power to them as well. But I think that, certainly we believe, whether it be certainly if that's something that you're pursuing, I hope you do find a woman that you can truly dedicate and get married to, if that is the desire of your heart. I definitely pray that
Eventually,
door.
yes, that's my goal. Find a
Yeah.
good woman I can have a kid who can deal with my crazy goddamn ass. That's the biggest problem.
You might be one to listen. That sense of craze, because you're not necessarily tied or locked down to a particular tradition or whatever. That might be the best environment to raise children in, because you can then be open, just as people you were able to get to a point where you can grow and be yourself. You're going to allow your kids to be their best selves, but they're still going to have the values that you instill in them. So I think, you might be in the best position, because then, the world that they grow up in is going to be a lot different from ours. And so being able to adapt to that is going to be certainly an asset to them. So I think you'll be a great father when that time.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
When that time comes. So I think, yeah, absolutely. And your wife, though, she may have 2 or more kids in the house, including yourself. So that's gonna be her problem when that goes down. But I pray that I pray in a good way. I could be a kid sometimes too, but I just pray that, again, you get the desires of your heart in that. And I'm just glad that you still have a positive view of marriage. I mean, I see a lot of people in these spaces get burned talking about, hey, get married, or I'm going, this or that, or marriage is out or whatever. I think it's something that we still both value.
Well, I'll give you a great example. Actually, one of my best friends, Dimitri, a Greek guy, grew up in Greece, came here. His parents were one of a few parents who divorced. I don't get too much in his business out in public,
right?
But I talked about marriage with him. He goes, "I don't want to get married." He goes, "I'm like, why do I have to get married? I'm happy the way I am. I don't need kids. I'm okay. I got my nephews." Like, and that's his prerogative. Marriage is not for everybody. Being a father is not for everybody. For me, being married to the right woman and having kids mean more to me than anything. Yeah. Like, I know this sounds silly, but that's what I do pray for every day.
Absolutely.
I'm healthy and meet the right woman and have kids. Those 2 things I pray to God every day.
The only thing I would tell you, just as some advice, again, for someone who's in his 27th year, the right woman could still be unrefined. So again, if you treat it as a growth process, find the right seed and let that thing grow into the woman that she needs to be, just as you're still growing as an individual. Allow that to happen.
Totally agree. Because this is a work in progress.
Absolutely. So those things, that's going to be, have the elasticity in order to embrace those things and learn to love someone through those things. And
this can be just a great idea, actually. Maybe later on with our journey, we should have some of our female friends come up and ask some questions, as
fantastic.
Greek, I know wife and some of the other ones, Bass and so on. They would love to ask me some questions. Hopefully I don't get in trouble, but that's never started.
Shout out. That's all right.
I think it'll be a great having them on. Honestly, I think it'll be like maybe episode 10 or something like that.
Awesome. Yep. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Brother Anton, as we close out the show, he said the best advice I can give: find yourself a dream maker. Interesting. So definitely, again, but someone you can grow with for sure. Those are things that we can definitely do. But I'm Mr. Bennett. This is Panayotis. We need to add some more words to your name. I'm thinking like from that line from Gladiator. Was it when he says his name? My name
Marcus. I can't remember. I know Marcus something. It went
Demetrius, Marcus, whatever. So you need at least 4 or 5 names in your that come out of the.
If you really want to Panayotis Peter, grooming reviews, Ghost of Sparta, Lauritzis. Is that better?
Yes. We'll take all of that. But again, thank you guys for being with us tonight. This is the gray area, and we're going to continue to find it and search for it through conversation. Again, next week's show, we're going to be talking about growing up. And again, some of this we've covered in a couple shows we've done already, but we're going to explore that even further as well. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. For everyone else, again, have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great Monday. Until we see you guys next week, take care. God bless.
Kanikta.
lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute, work hard for the car, so that's why it's all tinted. Wait a minute, had a real late night, woke up with my head spinning out in Nashville. It's been mad real, I need sunglasses, I need Advil. I like fake moves, and my cash real. I like first place, you're in last still. Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.
Look, pocket rocket in my pocket, please don't make me pop it. All these boys just wanna copy the style, tell them niggas stop it. Whoa, it's my destiny, feeling like LaToya, like it found me my Beyonce, and she shotgun in the cockpit. Grinding with the team, making C notes. In my pocket still full of green, call it CeeLo. Alligator watch on me, Tim Tebow. And these haters love to watch me like Tebow. Look, I don't take L's, I just learn a lesson. Before I count the M's, always count my blessings. Look, I'm too short, never second guessing. Got some money, put up for the rain, so I'm never stressing.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So